Hello, good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, or good night, whatever time it may be, wherever in the world you may be. Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of Top 5, where tonight we are going to be ranking our personal top 5 favorite original soundtracks from video games. How you doing tonight, Jason?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm as I was saying backstage before we started,
Yeah.
I'm doing good now. But as I'm sure most of the people on this panel tonight, we'll talk about doing some Sophie's Choice for picking our top fives for this topic.
Yeah, this is one of those lists that I can't wait to do again with other people. If we do episode 2 on this,
I'm
but
sure we will.
I'm sure we will too. But this is like one of those. I'm relieved to have it on paper and done because I'm already looking at it and I know there's probably 5 more soundtracks I could add, and I already know that I can see the messages and comments already coming at me probably as we continue down the list today.
Yeah, I did have done more homework for this episode than all the other episodes we've done so far combined, times like 10. I've been working on this for like close to a month, and I was still working on it up until about 45 minutes ago.
Same.
So
Same.
I'm very interested in seeing the list we got tonight because this is going to be a great episode. I already know it. So with that, we'll go ahead and welcome in our guests. First off, first time on my channel, CJP. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thanks, Mr. Neil, for inviting me to come on. It's been a while since we talked last. I think it was several months ago on the meme stream from the Legion of Memers.
Yep.
Was the last time we streamed together, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's video game soundtracks are kind of a jam.
Yeah. So did you already have like an idea, like right off the bat when I asked you, or did you have to do a lot of homework as well?
I already had several that are always in like my Mount Rushmore of game soundtracks.
Okay.
So it was more just refining kind of the order of
Okay.
where I wanted to put things. So
okay, cool. Yeah, I can't
one
wait
of
to
my
hear.
one of my list will not be a surprise of anyone who's actually looked at any of my content on my channel. So
I'm sure I'll have a couple on my list that won't be a surprise for anyone who's hung out on my channel for any period of time as well. But I think I've got some surprises as well. But yeah, as Dude says, this was one of those topics that will likely not have any overlap between any of us, or there might be a couple, but I don't expect there to be much. So because all the other episodes we've done so far have been kind of narrow topics. This one is like encompasses like all of video games, so it's very likely that we could have zero overlap between all 6 of us.
well, yeah, because it depends on what really kind of your genre you focus on, or what your jam is. You know, if you're an RPG guy, if you're a shooter guy, it really depends on kind of where you're spending most of your time on video games is kind of really going to change where your focus is.
Yeah. So
and age too is also going to play a factor.
Yes, that is true. So, all right. Next up, we got Angry Canadian. Hello and welcome.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for inviting me. I feel very serious imposter syndrome because some of these other people here on the panel are just they produce music and it's amazing music, especially with their video game background. So I'm just a guy that has a very deep interest in video game music. So I'm glad that you invited me on, and the rest of you guys are awesome, by the way.
Yeah, you don't have to be a music creator to be an appreciator of music, as I have very little musical talent, but I like music too. So
music is a universal language.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right. Next up, we got DJ Axis. Hello. Good evening.
What's going on, everybody?
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. I feel a sense of deja vu because I was on with Cult of Carl on the RNG gaming podcast, and we were talking about this very thing. So my list is already kind of made up already.
Angry Canadian was on with him just a few days ago as well, and I didn't watch your stream with him, and I didn't watch the last 30 minutes of Angry Canadian stream with him, so I didn't spoil anything for this stream. So once we're done here, I'm gonna go catch up on those episodes to see if there were any differences between then and now.
Gotcha.
So, and last up, we got Paul Hadouken, who was just a second ago. It was just his cat, but now it's him.
Oh, that's funny. I am trying to eliminate background noise and make sure I'm loud enough. Yes. We're good now. Good. I turned off a fan and lowered the fan. AC. It's hot. It's muggy in Chicago today. Whew.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I'm excited for this. This was actually a very easy list for me.
Okay.
Oh.
Why? Because all I needed to do was just like feel it. I just felt it. I was like, you know what? This soundtrack makes me feel more than the last soundtrack. And I just had to. And actually, I just made a last minute change right now. And some of
Nice.
y'all might be surprised as what I just kicked off. So we're gonna find out.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for another top 5. I think this has the potential to be the best episode yet. So
Let's go.
with that,
So
we're
too.
going to do a quick run through the chat. Insidious Bliss, who's always here. What's up, Insidious Bliss? Good to see you tonight, buddy. Who will have the best taste in music? Only one can win. Hey, it's not a competition.
Yeah,
Dude,
this is hopefully if you haven't listened to some of the soundtracks, you go listen to them after the show and be like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty good. If you didn't hear about it.
I actually would recommend, because I'm about to do this too. I'm gonna have Spotify pulled up and YouTube pulled up to hear these soundtracks that I probably never heard of. Because like CJP was saying, it all depends on what type of gamer you were or what games you just played. Because a lot of these games I've never played. So, but ironically, I still like, in passing, there's some soundtracks, some songs that are just so good that I've never played Chrono Trigger, but I know the Frog's theme. I covered it because people said how good it was. I'm like, that is good, but I never played Chrono Trigger. So everybody in chat is going to kill me right now for saying what I just said.
I'm right there with you. I've never played it either, but anyone who's hung out with my channel knows that would expect that, given that I don't like JRPGs. But I have nothing against them or music, because I know a lot of the times they have really good music. But yeah, so Dude is here. Dude 1286, my brother in achievement hunting. Well,
my brother in Halo.
Sorry. Yeah, your brother in Halo. Hopefully we'll all be able to connect up soon once you guys get to Halo 3.
Very soon.
And well, none of them will have the balls to say the real number one. It's the game I'm playing right now, and I have no idea what he's playing right now. So
I'm pretty sure it's Devil May Cry 5.
Oh, that
or it's Donkey Kong Country 2, but I think it's Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah, that's what he's been working on for his achievement hunting lately. So that would make sense. And CLS Studios is here. What's up, CLS? Good to see you. As always, thanks for hanging out with us. Let's see here. If one of you don't have a Zelda game in your list, I riot. We shall wait and see.
Sorry, bud.
All right. Well, before we get into our top 5s, just like to go into a little bit of background for each one of us on your video game music history. You don't have to give any games away if you don't want to, if they might potentially spoil your list. So, for me, it's no secret. I've said it many times on my channel. I've never been a big, appreciator is not the right word. I've never really paid much attention to music in games for the most part, up until I started my channel and I got connected with basically all of you guys who are so heavy into video game music. Since I started it back in last June, so I'm getting close to a year, I've been paying more and more attention to it. But before I started my channel, I think there's probably less than 5 times I ever listened to a soundtrack outside of a game. So there was a couple games that had music so outstanding that it actually stuck out to me. And I did listen to it outside the game, but not many. So for me, I had a lot of ideas of games. I wrote down a list of games that I thought had great music. I went and looked up people's lists of best soundtracks to be like, get an idea of what might make my list. And so I made basically a big list, and I've been listening to this over the last close to a month, doing my homework. Probably listening to like 40 or 50 different soundtracks to get prepared for this, because I had no idea where I was even going to start. And kind of like what Paul was saying a few minutes ago, I did keep it to games that I've played, and as I usually do for top 5s, I am also keeping it. Well, this is kind of redundant, but typically on top 5s, personally, I just like to usually keep it to one entry per franchise. But that didn't end up even being a consideration because the only ones that were close to being the same franchise, were spiritual successors, and they didn't even make the list. They made it into honorable mentions. So, but yeah, so I've listened to more video game music in the last 3 weeks than I have in my entire rest of my life combined. And I was working on this, like I said, up until about 45 minutes ago, trying to figure out. I got it narrowed down to 8 in my top 8, and for the last 2 days, I've been trying to figure out which ones are getting cut to make it the top 5. So that's a little bit of background on me on video game music for me. Jason, what about you? Have you been a long time, a heavy appreciator of video game music, or are you more recent to the game? Video game music game.
I've been appreciation of video game music since the NES days.
Okay.
My family was huge into music. We listened to a lot of music and all that kind of stuff. So if any game had like a soundtrack option, I was in the option menu listening to that. But I mean, I can honestly say from playing the first Mario, just sitting, listening to the music, adoring that. Then Mario 2, still one of my favorite Mario soundtracks to this day, just because it was something different. Obviously, it wasn't technically a Mario game, but still great music. Some of the games that I'm going to say right now are technically honorable mentions, but they're not. But like Batman, there's so many times where I would just listen to the Batman soundtrack on NES because, the opening level to that is just amazing. Some other ones that I have is like obviously Tetris. You're just playing Tetris and you just listen to like, obviously it's the music that it's not technically original, but it's how you added 8-bit and all that stuff and all the chiptune. It made it feel that way, Dr. Mario, all that kind of stuff. But anytime there was music in a game that I just listened to, I would try to find a way to, instead of play the game, I would just be like, oh, I'm going to listen to this on the TV. And, because obviously we couldn't download or have YouTube and all that kind of stuff to put all that stuff and listen to it at the time. But yeah, if it was a song that I liked, or if it was a game that I just cared for a little bit and the song made it, I would be playing that game more because I just want to listen to the music of the game.
I think you're muted, Neo.
Thank you. Appreciate it. A couple more entries from the chat here. My good friend R2 the Icky saying Mega Man 1 through 3. He loves the music. Hello, R2. Good to see you, buddy. And Dude is saying that it's not DMC5 or DKC2. So interesting. And another friend of the show, Tim's Talk. Aloha. What's up? Good to see you, Tim. Thanks for joining us. So, Canadian, what about you? Got you're one of the first people I talked to, you and DJ really, about video game music. So does your video game music history go way back?
Yeah, so it actually relates to the thumbnail you made because I told you I thought it was funny you put me on the keys. So my journey began when I was a kid when my parents forced me to learn how to play the piano. And I mean, it was pretty boring learning how to play the piano, anything from like Christian hymns to classical music. So in order to spice it up, I decided to start learning how to play Legend of Zelda, specifically Ocarina of Time tracks on the piano. I found this Zelda like best collections all in piano or for the piano, and I just started learning how to play that, and that was a lot of fun. And from there, it just kind of grew. And yeah, ever since I've been a huge like advocate for talking about video game music with people and just listening to. I try to branch out and listen to new stuff, but I'm always going back to the classics. As you got to respect the classics, right? But yeah, so I've always been a big fan. I started my YouTube channel wanting to talk about video game music. So even though I don't play instruments anymore and I don't really write music, I know what sounds good and what is good, and I can respect a lot of people's choices and why they've chosen that as their soundtrack of choice. Yeah, and for me, when it comes to the list that I made today, basically every item on the list is a representation of the franchises that I really enjoy from the music in them, and it was really hard to choose like one game from that franchise. But that doesn't mean I don't like the rest of them because I like all of them equally. Just which one am I gonna show to the YouTubes today on what is my favorite one? So yeah, that's basically it for my history.
All right. And other friend, let's see, where is he? Cult Carl's here. What's up, Cult Carl? I will be on his show this upcoming Saturday night, but we'll talk about that at the end. Cool. Excellent. Well, Paul, I know you are an actual musician, so
Kind of.
I know your music history. Your music history probably goes back quite a while. But what about your history in video game music?
Well, that predates my music. That predates just even my musical abilities. Like you, Jason was saying, down from NES, from Mario 3. I have a vivid memory of a Christmas video where I am 3 or 4 years old, and I have two brothers that are 8 and 9 years older than me, and they're sitting playing Mario 3, and I'm standing in the background just watching them play. And in the video, I could just vividly remember my middle brother just going, just that classic fucking just being a dumb kid, but like, yeah, that shit was just so. Oh, sorry, swearing. That was just so catchy. It was like, I'm like, oh my god. And then Mario 2. As I grew up, for some reason I love the Mario 2 soundtrack. It's just so good. It's just so jazzy and stuff. It's probably why I love jazz music today. It makes sense. I in my teens, in my youth, I was like a metal guy, like Rage Against the Machine and Korn and that kind of stuff. But as I grow older, I realized, thanks to old video game soundtracks and all that, like my taste has been curated by old games that I played. I remember someone playing Final Fight. I think DJ, you were playing Final Fight recently, and I'm like, dude, everything is just, my nostalgia brain is just going crazy. Like, it wasn't great music, but just like, I remember playing it as a kid and just like, holy moly, like, it's just trapped in your brain. Music, scent. I think music and scent is like the two things that are like connected the most to memory. And yeah, man, that's why music is a hell of a thing. So yeah, man, and it's funny that I just grew up to be a musician, just like just naturally. I think these games that made great music out of very limited hardware, that's amazing. That's so inspirational that I was just like, Paul was born with a guitar. I got all the instruments down.
Guitar.
But yeah, man. So I've been a big fan of music, since I could even speak. I'm pretty sure I was humming game music before humming real music and stuff like that. So yeah, man, these soundtracks, they shape you to the person you are today. That's
all right. Sean Callahan, what's up? Hello and welcome. Maybe unpopular Tony Hawk Pro Skater had a great soundtrack. Yeah, this Tony Hawk games do have great soundtracks. However, tonight we were talking about original soundtracks, not licensed soundtracks. So this is going to be all original music for the games that they're in.
I will say on that. I was going to say real quick on that. Tony Hawk probably is, to the entire franchise, is probably half of the reason why I listen to half the bands I listened to today.
Oh, yeah.
Primus is where I just realized I didn't even realize it was in Tony Hawk 1 until I'm like, holy hell, Jerry was a race car driver, was in Tony Hawk 1. Like, these random ass songs. So yeah.
Licensed soundtrack, that could be something we do later down the line though, because there's a lot of games with so many different songs that aren't GTA in a way, because GTA has such a great licensed music selection, but like there are so many other games with them too that could easily be on the list.
I immediately go to Crazy Taxi.
I was gonna say Crazy Taxi, which is basically a Offspring soundtrack. So
pretty
much.
So if you like Offspring, you'll love the freaking Crazy Taxi soundtrack.
You definitely do.
All right, and DJ, what got you into video game music, or what's a little bit of background from you?
Well, not counting the consoles I played, really early in life, because they didn't really have, actual like full soundtracks. Even though I did start out with stuff like, the VIC-20 and the 2600, but I mean, as far as like the NES and the Commodore 64 was where I got my start listening to video game music, and I was in love with it ever since. Video game music specifically is what inspired me to become a music producer. That and tracker music, which me and CJP have already talked about And if you know, you know. It was super important for me. And video game music is probably the thing I'm actually the most passionate about. I know most people hear my music and they assume that I'm passionate about like electronic music, which I am. But when it comes to like video game music, it's that's like my favorite thing to discuss ever. Just video games in general, but specifically the music.
Cool. All right. Yep. I mean, yeah, that's what's kind of brought a lot of us together is video games, and then for a lot of you guys, even more so music. So, and CJP, what about you? Give us a little background of your history with video game music.
Well, a lot like DJ Axis because I cut my teeth on a 5200 Atari, which didn't really have music to speak of. So when the NES came out, my mind was blown. But
Yeah.
mine was always linked with movie soundtracks because my dad would always, if a movie came out with a really good score, he would usually get the soundtrack for it. Obviously, Star Wars really kicking that off because soundtracks up until then were all licensed stuff. So John Williams really brought back the orchestral score, and then everyone went hog wild with it since then. So I've been listening to movie soundtracks every bit as long as I've been listening to video game soundtracks. So I always kind of equate them the same way. So it's just been a part of my life. And then I, started playing music and then, went and got classically trained on music. And so,
I wish more. I mean, it kind of is now a little bit, just because again, as we get older, we appreciate the music. But I wish video game music would be more appreciated, like the scores of movies and all that kind of stuff. Because like you listen to movie score and you're like, oh, that's good, but then there's like 3 or 4 games you're like, that's way better. Why did that get just mentioned? That just kind of gets shoved under the rug in a way, but it obviously doesn't, because us as fans, we try to make people respect it. But I wish it would get more of a limelight than it kind of does in a way.
Well, I think what's cool about that is how in recent years there's been a lot of video game symphonies that have popped up. So you've got like the Sonic 30th Anniversary Symphony. The Zelda one's been happening for several years now. Of course, in Japan, they do a lot of video game symphonies, but that's because a lot of the music comes from Japan. But in the US, it's been slowly growing. So hopefully it continues to get bigger and bigger. And we have, I forgot the Game Awards, right? Or that people don't really watch, right? But the Game Awards and maybe E3, but some of those big conventions or whatever, they have those sound or symphonies there. So that's been kind of cool to see that over the years.
Yeah, the not video game related, but I remember the first time I saw something like that was I went and saw at the basically the place that one of those big arenas where they change it for a lot of stuff, like they'll have basketball games and they'll change it and it'll be like a monster truck rally. I went there for a symphony that played the music instead of the music coming from the movie, and we watched Fellowship of the Ring, and that was freaking amazing. I was really hoping that they'd come back and do Two Towers and Return of the King, but they never did. But getting to watch Fellowship of the Ring on a giant screen with the actual orchestra playing the music, that was pretty amazing. So I've never seen anything. I mean, I've seen stuff like that exist for video game music, but I've never gone to one of those myself. But that'd be pretty cool to do as well. So,
hot dog.
All right. Well, with that, let's get into our top 5s. So, is anyone burning to go first?
I'll kick us off, just because
All
again.
right.
So, making my top 5, I had to find a way to cut out all the amazing music, especially the music that I was going to say earlier and all that stuff. So my top 5 is pretty much, if I can listen into my car, like not like a full soundtrack or anything like that. That's what's going to be on my top 5 list. So something like, I know people were saying like this, and again, it's an honorable mention. I'm just gonna get out of the way for me. Something like Mega Man 2, amazing music. But when you listen to the full level, you can only listen to it loop so many times for 4 minutes. So the amazing music's great, but I want something that's going to fill the 3 to 4 minute gap for the whole entire ride or whatever song I'm listening to. So for my number 5, I put in Parappa the Rapper. Every song in that game is fantastic. Obviously, everybody knows the first stage because a lot of people, that's pretty much all they play. But like the Mussolini's car, driver's license, The Flea Swallow rap is fantastic. Cheap Cheap. Anytime I'm making breakfast or I need to crack an egg, I literally say crack, crack, crack the egg into the bowl. It is just something it's in my head. If anybody says like you gotta believe, I think of Parappa the Rapper. Like there's just so many songs. Like you can only have so much good music, and then they also have a song where you need to go to the restroom, and then they rap about cutting people in line to go to the bathroom. And it makes sense in this world, and the music with it is great. I'm not the biggest hip hop ish fan in the world. Like I love music, like I like rap and all that stuff, but like this has so many different concepts of it in just a ridiculous way to be like, hey, you're playing this game with really, really good music, and it's like an intro course to to hip hop in a way.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I've seen that game, but I never played it myself, so I wouldn't even be able to recognize the music if I heard it. But now I might have to go check that out.
Same. Yeah.
Robot Chicken did a great, like, almost 8 Mile joke with Parappa the Rapper.
I love Robot
Did
Chicken.
they?
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
And then Cult of Carl in chat. Yes, you got to believe, Carl. You got to believe.
So, yeah, so I'm kind of right there with you, especially, like I said, like I've not really spent a lot of time listening to video game music in the past. So for me, like narrow it down was tough, but like that was almost kind of like my criteria as well. It's like, is this something I would put on my car if I'm about to go somewhere and listen to? And my number 5, my 5, 6, 7, and 8 all could easily take that 5 slot. Like I was saying, but it was up until about 45 minutes before we started that I had to narrow it down because I was having a tough time figuring out which ones I'm cutting. But I ended up settling on, and I think it was CLS that said it earlier. I'll put you at ease right now. Zelda's on my list, and for my number 5 is Ocarina of Time. So that game, I have not played it in probably like a decade, but I have played. That's one of the games that I've beaten. That was on like one of the very first episodes of Party Chat. We talked about what games have you beaten the most times, and that's up there as one of the games I've beaten the most times. I've beaten that game probably a couple dozen times. I just haven't played it in a really long time. But listening back through the soundtrack again over the last couple days, it's like, man, talk about take me right back to my childhood and hit me like right in the nostalgia.
You want to get me to cry? Play the opening theme song, the Ocarina of Time. I'll start bawling right now.
So much, yeah, and like I don't remember if we said this yet, but no, we were talking about it backstage before we started. But it is original soundtracks, and it's the entire soundtrack. So you got to take the good and the bad. So you could have some really, really amazing songs in your soundtrack, but if you have like the rest of the soundtrack is really garbage, then I mean it could be on your list if those few tracks are good enough to offset the bad. But there's almost nothing on the Ocarina of soundtrack that I would say is bad. There's one or two that I don't really care for just because it's like I'm not really into creepy stuff and scary stuff. I don't do scary movies. I don't do scary games.
The Shadow Temple, where it's like
the Shadow Temple and Under the Well. The music is not bad. It's just creepy, and I don't really like creepy. So
I love it. It's so good.
Those are the quote unquote worst ones on the soundtrack, but I don't think that they're bad. They're just I don't like it, but they're not bad at all. But just everything, like just listening to it again, I remember vividly every song that came on. Remember being in that part of the game. So. And another thing is that I was thinking before I started working on this list, it was all going to be stuff with like actual like instruments and orchestras playing music. I was like, none of this stuff where they were generated in computer programs and not actually played by musicians and stuff like this would even be on my list. But when I was listening back through it, I'm like, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to put some of these ones that are not actual instruments into my list. And so, yeah, for me, I put Ocarina of Time as my number 5.
So my question to you, did you have the original cartridge, the
Yes,
golden one?
the gold one.
So that means you would have heard the original Fire Temple music because that was later cut in the gray cartridges.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, with the like Arabic chants.
Yeah, I remember that.
That got like censored basically in the gray cartridges.
Because apparently it's talking about like God and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, we don't like that. And they took it out eventually.
You know what? I remember hearing about that like a couple years ago, but I totally forgot about it till you just mentioned it. But yes, when I played the original gold cart, I could go grab it from my N64 games right now. But yes, I did hear the one with the original chants.
Nice.
You're a bigot then. No, I'm joking.
I'm a respecter of their culture.
Same.
So we got a couple others hopping in the chat. What's up, my good
The
buddy?
Smooth
Abe. What's up, Abe? Good to see you. Welcome. And another friend of the channel, Smoo. What's up, Smoo the DJ? Hello and welcome. As
Rick
we're talking
Cleary
about our
also.
video game.
Rick
that?
Clearly. Also another
Rick
person.
Clearly.
Oh, right down at the bottom. Hello, Rick Clearly. I've not seen you before. But welcome.
Cleary. There's no Leary. There's no second L.
Cleary, not clearly. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me and pointing that out to me. I like it.
Shout out, guys. That's
hello.
Tomby and Smooth's
Tomby.
crowd.
I didn't see Tomby hop in, but
I don't think Tomby, but I'm just saying Tommy and Smooth, they have like the same
they all
crowd kind of.
hang together a lot of the time.
Yeah,
so welcome. Hope you enjoy
Shout out,
our
guys.
talk about our favorite video game soundtracks. And we just hit a channel record for most concurrent streamers views on a stream. 18.
Yo.
So
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So all right.
Thank you all.
So that does it for Jason and I. Who wants to go next?
I may as well get mine out of the way.
All right, Paul. What do you got for your number 5?
You nailed it with the whole would you put it and loop it, in your car and stuff like that, because I literally just had to kick something off. It was a Mega Man. I kicked Mega Man off not because of what you said, but I thought of that earlier. And I'm like, you know what? And another soundtrack has been stuck in my head since I listened to it. And that soundtrack is the Tekken 3 soundtrack.
And that bumped off Mega Man?
That bumped Mega Man 2 off.
Mega Man 2.
My favorite Mega Man has been bumped off my top 5 because I re-listened to Tekken 3 soundtrack, and damn, is that good!
It's very good.
It's probably nostalgia just for me because I played a ton of Tekken 3 when I was a kid, but the King level has been in my head all day. And the theme, just the intro theme song, dude, Tekken 3 was a banger. And if anybody remembers,
Smooth
that's
right there with you.
Who remembers taking the game out of the PS1 and putting it into your CD player and listening to the motherfucker?
Yep.
That was amazing that you could just listen to the CDs right off the game. That's amazing.
Yep.
So I used to
one of my
just
favorite features.
Smoo has a question for you, Paul. Did you know that there are 2 versions of said OST, arcade and PS1?
I have not listened to the arcade. I don't think
the arcade one's a little bit better because I have I believe there's a couple extra songs, but the quality is just a little bit there too. But yes, if you can, the arcade version is really, really good.
Right on.
Actually, no, I think the PlayStation has an extra song because the PS1 had more stuff of Tekken. I'm trying to remember now because the arcade version is really good, but the PS1 had like a couple things. But yeah.
But it was hard because I literally had to watch Mega Man 2 drop from number 2 slot in mine to just this one, this one, this one. I'm like, it's got to stay in my top 5 until this morning. I'm pooping and I'm like, just thinking of King's level soundtrack, and I'm like, man, that Tekken 3 was just a banger, man. Every level, and what was hilarious is when I went onto YouTube to re-listen to this. I played the level, and I'm like, "That's Law," and I looked. It was Law. I was able to remember whose level. I haven't played this game in probably over 20 years or so, and I was able to name levels just by hearing it. That's how good my memory was. I'm like, "That's King's level." I'm like, "Yeah, it was so good." So Tekken 3, it just kicked Mega Man 2 into the honorable mentions. So
all right, I've never fighting is not one of my genres, so and I've never even played a Tekken game, so I don't know, but I will have to check that out as well. I'm making the list, so I'll have all these to refer back to later to go and listen and check out at some point. So.
And then Smooth, I said I know the PS1 version of Tekken is very, very, very good. I mean, it could just be my memory serving wrong, but like having that music on an arcade cabinet in the arcade with it up to that lot, the volume that it was on, because it had to be super loud to get everybody in. Maybe that's what I'm going over, but I mean, I know like I said, I know the PS1 had extra stuff from the game because that's what the arcade scene was starting to go down a little bit because you can get even more stuff at home. But yeah, no, I said they're both great. But yeah, I think the arcade's better just because, again, if you don't have the sound system at home with the people jamming to the game, it's kind of like going to a concert in a way in an arcade.
All right. And Abe is saying that simple. My love for the Aladdin soundtrack for the Genesis Mega Drive. I only played the Super Nintendo version, so I don't know the music from the Genesis version. But I was always jealous that the Genesis version had a sword and the SNES version did not. So, all right. Canadian, you want to give us your number 5?
Sure thing. So for my number 5 and one of my other ones, I kind of broke my own rule where I wanted to try to avoid covers or rearrangements. But this game has so many amazing arrangements that like I had to choose this one. And also it's kind of one of the earliest games that I downloaded the music online and onto my phone, and I would just listen to all the time. And so for number 5, I chose Super Smash Brothers Brawl. The reason why I didn't choose the original Smash or Melee is because those tracks are included in Brawl. So it's kind of like a 3-for-1 deal.
Gotcha.
But the reason why Brawl specifically is because it has a much larger library of music from across the different franchises of games, and I love the arrangement specifically in Brawl. Like from the Zelda soundtracks to the Super Mario soundtracks, and then some of the more obscure ones that I've never heard before, because like F-Zero or even not Dr. Mario, but Mac Rider I think is one of them in there. So, anyways, like that like I said, I downloaded the files. Like this is before you can even get CDs of this. I downloaded the files offline and I put it on my phone. I would listen to it like everywhere while I was studying, while I was exercising. It didn't matter. And I just have a lot of good memories of going into the because Smash Brothers had a sound test to it, so you can go and listen to the soundtrack in the game. And I remember just turning it on and like going through the sound test and just listening to the music all the time. And that's why it's my number 5, and I have to give ultimate respect to what Sakurai did with that franchise.
Good pick. And
That
we got
is-
Amon Ra coming in saying, "Moo, what's up, Amon Ra?"
That's right. Moo, Dirk. No, I was going to say that Smash is actually kind of a genius because it's like a best of all the characters' soundtracks in one game. So
Compilation.
you get a nice compilation. Nice trick there. I see what you did there.
Yeah, CLS has a great question about why not Ultimate. I haven't played Ultimate, so I don't know. Maybe it has a different soundtrack.
So it's huge. It's like 1,000 songs, and like that's just not fair for what we're trying to do today.
Okay,
I mean,
that's a
like
good
Smash
answer.
Brothers Brawl is already pushing the limit. It's pretty big. But yeah, Brawl. But Ultimate would have been like just a cop out. Like, yeah, it's 1,000 songs. It covers all of these different franchises. So that's why I didn't choose it.
Okay, good answer. Good answer. Cool. All right. CJP, what do you got for your number 5?
Mine, well, because I am an RPG guy, and just this soundtrack I've listened to probably 30, 40 times since I got a copy of it, and it's Octopath Traveler.
Okay, I've heard good stuff about that game.
Right on.
Just the themes, they really do evoke the emotion for each of the characters that you're playing as. And of course, it's a fully orchestrated soundtrack, which that's definitely up my alley. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. Plus, the game is just fantastic in and of itself. So it's none of the music's distracting, but it's great. Again, I can put it on in the background and be working and just let it wash over me.
And Octopath Traveler is basically almost like maybe not spiritual successor, but very highly inspired by. There's some of the older JRPGs, right?
Oh yeah, it's got Chrono Trigger. It's got not really Grandia, but it's got a bunch of those that DNA, the Final Fantasy DNA, stuff like that. It's got that all built into it. So it was a fantastic love letter to that genre of games.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
While being a great game in its own right.
Right.
Shout out to Gino SMRPG. He's actually streaming that game. Not right now, but he's in the middle of a playthrough.
He's been streaming lately. Cool.
He's been streaming Octopath Traveler.
It's a 4 CD soundtrack. That's a lot of music for an RPG.
Yes.
Another game that is kind of recent along those lines that pays homage to some of the JRPGs of yesteryear that I've heard nothing but good things about was the Sea of Stars.
Mhm.
So
It's really good too. It's a really good soundtrack.
Okay, cool. All right. And then to finish off our number 5s, we got DJ.
Anyone here besides me know who the Folan brothers are? As in
Mhm.
Tim and Jeff Folan?
Yep.
Amazing, amazing composers. And if you haven't heard any of their music, you owe it to yourself to go listen to it. My number 5 goes to a Super Nintendo game. It's kind of a deep cut called Plock. And the soundtrack, yes, and the soundtrack was by Tim and Jeff Folan. Every single song is just beautiful, beautiful music.
I haven't played that game since I was like less than 10, so I don't
Mhm.
really. I remember playing it, but I did, like I said, I wasn't really into music until recently, so I definitely don't remember the music, but I remember the gameplay.
It's really good because the Folans did this thing where they kind of incorporated a lot of their music, like a lot of their music in one console sounds like it comes from like a different console entirely. So it's like they took their knowledge of making music on Amiga and they brought that over to the NES with stuff like Solstice or Silver Surfer or Pictionary, and then they brought that same like skill set to the Super Nintendo with stuff like Plock. It's just every single bit of music that they touched was just gold.
Pictionary is a game that does not need the soundtrack to go as
No,
hard.
the music goes way too hard for it.
It does.
For a board game NES cartridge to have that fantastic of a soundtrack
Yeah.
is retarded.
Wait,
and this is
what are we
what
talking
happens.
about?
Specifically
get
the
a
Folan Brothers
chance-
music.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But
If you
yeah,
ever
they
get
did
a
the soundtrack.
chance-
They
If
did
you
the
ever get a
soundtrack.
chance, just listen to just play Pictionary. Again, that was one of those games where I didn't even play Pictionary. I just had it to listen to that song. But yeah, the NES Pictionary game, the music
NES,
in there,
okay. I was
you
like,
listen to it, you're like,
what board
why
game
is
has
this-
music with it?
yeah, you want it to because it's a board game. You're like, okay, you need something, but you listen to the music, you're like, why is it in this game? Why wasn't it in something else? But I mean, I get it because you're just playing a board game, but I'm like, like they're saying, it doesn't need to go as hard as it does. It's crazy.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I actually mentioned Plock on the last episode of Party Chat when the topic was weirdest or most obscure games you played, and that was one of my answers. Not my main answer, but that was one of the things that I mentioned because I don't think anybody else on the panel that day had ever even heard of it. But interesting. I will have to go back and listen to music to Plock now. Although I do have it on my list on my retro achievements, so I will be playing it at some point for achievements. So cool. All right. Well, that does it for number 4s. So we'll get to, or that does it for number 5s.
Five.
We're getting on to our number 4s. At 14. So, let's see here. Hey, Canadian, you want to start us off with your number 4?
Yeah, sure thing. I was just listening to Pictionary, and yeah, that that goes way too hard. I got to see the gameplay now.
I'll have to listen. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. So for number 4, this one is like I mentioned, this is a OST from a game series. But I like a lot of the other songs, so I had to choose like the best one for me and the most memorable. This soundtrack, I listened to it a lot, especially when I was in the military, having to do PT tests all the time. And this music, I swear to everything that is holy and sacred that this has helped me pass PT tests because of like the tracks in this helping you to run quicker. And if that doesn't give you a big enough hint, it is definitely Sonic the Hedgehog related.
Oh, okay.
So for number 4, I chose Sonic Unleashed. And for those of you who are not familiar with the game, it's basically it's kind of like Sonic Adventure, which is a giant like adventure type game. But it was released on the 360, PS3, and the Wii. Growing up, I played the Wii version, which is actually different than the other 2 versions. But as far as like the entire soundtrack's amazing. It's got your typical Sonic pop music, like your high tempo pop music for your one part of the gameplay, and then the other gameplay that gets a lot of negative attention is when you're playing as a werehog, so it's a little bit more slowed down. It's more combat based. However, the music for that's pretty cool because it's a lot of like jazzy or like lo-fi style music while you're like doing these like combat encounters. And so listening to that on the side is really cool. But specifically the daytime or the normal Sonic stages is the ones that I listen to while I used to run all the time. And yeah, that music goes hard just listening to it and giving you that extra boost in your step. And that helped. That actually kind of introduced me to more Sonic music, this specific game. So when we get to honorable mentions, I'll mention another Sonic game, but this one I have to give a lot of praise to. Besides Smash Brothers Brawl, this is like one of the other oldest music downloads that I had from my like childhood, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I was a Nintendo kid, so I didn't really play much Sonic, but I do know I don't even know which Sonic it's from, but I remember there's one song that I really liked, and I think it was like from Casino Zone or something. But yeah, so I didn't listen to Sonic soundtracks for this, although I'm sure I probably could have found one that I really liked. But I kept it to stuff that I've actually played. But I do know that Sonic is huge and it's got good music, and I know some of it was inspired by or even partook from Michael Jackson as well.
Yeah, awesome. The soundtrack to like Sonic 1 and 2 on the Genesis, just like those also go way too hard. Like some of those, like you could almost tell that someone involved with Michael Jackson's production team was involved in some of these songs. Like it definitely has that kind of just like you can't help but bob your head to it. It's just that good. Like Sonic just in general.
MJ was involved in Sonic 3, and there was someone from Dreams Come True that was involved in Sonic 2.
Right on.
Cool. I couldn't remember. I knew there was something involved in 2. I couldn't remember who it was either. Yep. So glad we have you, DJ.
All right, DJ. Since we're on the topic, you want to give us your number 4?
Sure thing. So again, mine's a deep cut that I don't think will ever get mentioned otherwise. It's actually an N64 game. Hang on, there's a siren going through.
Woo!
I think that's
coming for you.
Yeah,
Yep.
They're there for your hot take.
Yeah, my pick is too spicy. But yeah, it's an N64 game. The game's music again has no right being as good as it is. But anyone else here ever play Tetrisphere on the N64? The music for that is just, it's so good. It's all like 90s techno, like drum and bass, jungle. The genres are of my people, okay? Just every single song in that game is just amazingly good. It doesn't sound like music from Tetris. Like it goes really, really hard, but it's just amazing stuff.
And that one was called, what was that?
Tetrisphere. It's all one word.
Sphere. Okay, I haven't never heard of that one.
Wasn't like their commercials and their ad like this isn't your dad's Tetris or something like that?
I think so.
And it made it with like, and the music with it kind of made sense too because it wasn't as calming, chilling as what it was before. It was like it went the way it did. Yeah. No, I if I remember correctly, I think that's what it was.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let's see here. Paul, what's your number 4?
This one also another one that kept getting bumped. Wait, was the last 2 N64 games? Wait, we had DJ's was N64. Yours was
mine was a Wii.
Sonic. Okay, okay.
Well, I did Ocarina of Time, which was N64, but that was my number 5.
That was 5. Okay, no, I thought the last 2 were N64 games. I was going to say another N64 game. My number 4, which I'm sure CJP's is somewhere on CJP's list.
I'm sure I know where you're going with this.
GoldenEye 64. That is too hard of a soundtrack. And it's funny, I was just talking with my girl this morning because I was talking about the soundtracks and stuff, and I just started playing some of them. She was just like, it's just the same song reiterated over and over. It's the James Bond theme, but done in a different way. I'm like, but listen to how badass they made it. And then I play it, and she's like, yeah, that is pretty awesome. And then she started remembering when she was a kid playing these games with her brother and sister and stuff like that. And I'm like, these songs were just too good. And again, I love it when they take, hardware that you only have so many tracks to use, and you make the most of it, and you choose some real good MIDI instruments. And man, that first level, the dam level, It just starts off too hard. Like, what the heck? That's too hard. Stop it, GoldenEye. And it's kind of sad that's it was higher up on my list, but again, I meditated on some songs or soundtracks, and it got bumped down to number 4. But man, that's a banger of a soundtrack there, GoldenEye 64.
Yeah, I hadn't listened to it since I played the N64 game back in the day until doing my homework for this stream. I was like, God, this soundtrack is amazing.
So you don't watch my channel then, Jack.
I have not watched it yet, but I do know that you use the watch face from GoldenEye as like your thumbnails. So
he uses the instruments as well. He uses like the instruments straight out of GoldenEye to make originals or other like he did Castlevania music with the GoldenEye instruments. It's very cool. CJP, everybody go check out CJP's channel.
So I'm assuming that's going to be on his list somewhere as well, but we shall see.
Probably higher than mine.
Yes, I've subscribed to your channel. I just haven't watched any of your stuff yet, but now I think I'm definitely going to need to go back.
Thanks, Neo.
Do that.
He's been out.
It's one of those funny things too. Is like if you think of like just like he was talking about the watch theme. Like if right now if we just say watch theme, we could pretty much all. If we say now, we could probably all start like bouncing to the song at the same exact time. It's just one of those things. Yeah, it's just one of those hilarious things.
It's so good.
One thing I loved about that soundtrack is if you compare it to the GoldenEye movie soundtrack, it blows the movie soundtrack out of the water.
Yeah,
which is very, very, very rare that a video game adaptation of the movie is going to have a better soundtrack than the movie.
Yes. I mean, it's pretty rare for a game based on a movie to be better than the game, but there are a few exceptions. And not that GoldenEye, the movie, is bad, but yeah, I think the game is better.
Very rare that happens.
Good pick. All right. Well, I guess let's go with CJP next then.
I went with Super Mario Odyssey.
Okay.
Because the one thing I've loved about the mainline Mario games is, yes, you will hear remixes of past themes. That's going to happen. It's Mario game. They're going to do it. But they always find a way each game to invent new sound, new tracks that become bangers in their own right. Like Delfino Plaza from Mario Sunshine.
Yes.
Is fantastic. Rosalina's Observatory from Galaxy is fantastic. And those are all original tunes, but Odyssey was able to do it in a very different way. And the whole soundtrack from beginning to end is incredible. It's one of those ones I can listen to it all the time, even with the Pauline song.
Is that like a not well-regarded song?
No,
it's James' favorite song.
It is cheesy though.
Okay.
It's what opened the Melee Games streams for like the last month or so.
Yes.
In March.
Yeah,
Pauline's song.
Yeah, that's like the one single that comes off an album that you hear way too many times on the radio, and you're like, oh, everybody likes it. But then you're like, no, there's other good songs in the album. Please listen to the album. But then everybody sings the Odyssey song. It's like, no, listen to the other stuff, please.
I can't remember the name of the level, but there's a track it's almost like a jazz guitar level that's really high energy and high BPM that it doesn't sound like a Mario song, but it fits the level perfectly.
I'm trying to think what level that is.
I can't.
I have never played that game, so I don't know.
But it's
after
the treetop level, where all the scaffolding and everything that you have to go through.
Okay, so I think it's
someone in chat.
Yeah, someone in chat.
I'm looking.
Somebody go get James. It's his favorite Mario game.
Steam Gardens. Is it Steam Gardens? Yeah. I know which one you're talking about. Steam Gardens. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That track, it doesn't necessarily sound like a Mario song, but one, it's fantastic in its own right, but two, it actually does fit the level.
Yes.
It's one of those rarities where you have a song that's kind of outside the wheelhouse of the game, but still fits somehow.
I know. I was going to say New Donk City. So when Mario Odyssey came out, I was living on the East Coast, and I had a chance to go visit New York. And I had played that game to death. And as soon as I got to New York, that New Dog City theme jumped into my brain, and I was just like, while I'm walking around New York City, that theme was playing. It was such a like surreal experience, like just how impressive that one simple track was, that it like maybe felt like I was in New Donk City in New York.
You didn't jump on any cabs though, did you?
No, I didn't do that. I didn't hit any lights, No, I wasn't vandalizing or anything.
Throwing hats at people to see what happens.
I was just gonna say, you throw your hat at anyone?
No, I didn't do that either.
It's like, I think that's the right Mario game.
I tried to find the jazz club, that Pauline's a part of, but I couldn't find it. So
All right. Well, that leaves Jason and I. You want me to go first? You want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So my number 4 is a Street Fighter game. It's not Street Fighter 2, and it's not Third Strike, though it pains me to not put it on the list. My number 4 is Street Fighter EX.
EX1?
Just, I mean, you can go to 3. 3 is kind of being cheap because there's so many songs on it. So I'm just keeping it to the first one because I want to be like in it. The full album is what matters. So some of the EX3 songs aren't the best. So I'm trying to trim them to make the soundtrack better in a way. But yeah, Street Fighter EX. If you have not listened to this soundtrack, or you're like, oh, Street Fighter is just, Street Fighter 2, Guile theme, all that fun stuff, you're doing yourself a disservice. There's songs like Rising Dragon, which is Ryu's theme. I till this day think that's one of his best themes. Strange Sunset. You've probably heard me, chirp about this song so many times. Like, Strange Sunset is the better Guile theme. I don't care what anybody says to me. Strange Sunset.
That's in the first one as well?
That is in the first one as well.
Because I thought, and in the third one, right? Because I was
it's in all of them.
Oh,
yeah, it's in all of them.
Then, as long as that song's in it, then I agree.
yeah. Strange Sunset, fantastic. Spinning Bird, that's Chun-Li's new theme in that game. Guardian of Light, and then Precious Heart, which is Sakura's theme. I don't think this gets as much love because this is one of the 3D Street Fighter games. But if you listen to these music and you're like, oh, wow, this is something I would want to listen to. It's really, really jazzy because Capcom was going through their jazzy phase at the time. But some of the stuff that they do, I mean, it's a full start of a song, and then it breaks down, and then it just goes from there on all of their stuff. So again, if you haven't had a chance or you've never heard of anything from Street Fighter EX, play it. You will play the game as well, because the game's not terrible. It's not great, but the music on it is so good.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't do fighting games, so I don't know Street Fighter, but cool. So for me, my number 4, this was one that wasn't in my honorable mentions, and I had to bump it up into number 4, like at last minute when I was thinking about it. So it has some of my favorite bands from the time that this album or this game came out, and there's more than 3 games in the franchise, but the first 3 are kind of considered the first part of the first trilogy of the series. And this is actually my least favorite of those 3 games, but I think it's got the best music. And some of the bands in it that I freaking love that are part of the soundtrack, and I even still love some of these bands to this day, is Incubus, Hoobastank, and Breaking Benjamin. And that is the soundtrack for Halo 2.
And Smashing Pumpkins.
Okay, I didn't know that. I'm not a huge fan of them, but I've listened to them before. But yeah, like Breaking Benjamin is still one of my favorite bands. I haven't listened to them in a while, but it's one of the few bands that I have seen live, and they were awesome. But
Halo 2 goes real hard, man. I'm playing that with Dude right now, and there was a specific Banshee fight, which I think Dude was telling me, he's like, I think this is Smashing Pumpkins, and I'm like, I believed him because the way the instruments sounded like it was it sounded like Smashing Pumpkins, like their instruments, because it didn't sound like too heavy, like a heavy song, but the song was going heavy as heck. It was like, I'm like, oh my god, what is this amazing song? Yeah, Halo 2 goes hard.
So, but yeah, the Halo 2 soundtrack, those bands are only a couple of songs, but listening through the whole thing, because I listened to like basically all the Halo soundtracks. And so what I did at the beginning was, because, like I said, I'm going to my original plan was I was only going to pick one per franchise, and so I went through all my franchises that I thought I was going to like, and I ranked them within their franchise, and then I figured out where the best of each one ranked with the others. And Halo 2's soundtrack just in its entirety is the best, and in my opinion. And so that is my number 4. So all right, so we'll move on to our number 3s at an hour. So let's see here, starting off our number 3s. CJP, you want to start us off with number 3?
Well, I mean, it is a repeat from what we've talked about before. My number 3 is GoldenEye.
There's the first overlap.
Oh, there we go.
Again, I played my college years. We did that because, you know, I was in the nerd crowd because I was a musician in college, so I hung out with all the nerds. So we would all go into my dorm room and put up 4 controllers and just shoot the absolute crap out of each other in that game. But and again, you know, having worked with the actual sound fonts of it, it's probably, other than Mario 64, the most versatile sound bank that I've seen from the N64. And I've been able to use it for a lot of different things that I didn't think I would be able to use it for. And it's been really a blast exploring the actual sounds that they use for the different instruments. And in case anyone's wondering, the sonar gong sound in the sound font itself, it's called Infinite One, and it's a G4 note. That's the boom, the
Yeah.
it sounds like a sonar going off.
Yeah. Isn't that just like a lowered tambourine sound?
I'm not sure what they used, but that's what they just call it Infinite One.
Right. I think I saw someone replicate it, and all they did was take a tambourine, a single, and then
I've
add
seen
a reverb.
Do it with a wood block.
Okay.
Before
you can pretty much do it. Yeah, you can make that sound multiple ways.
Yeah, but yeah, again, I just it was one of those rarities where the soundtrack for the game was better than the movie.
Yeah,
sure.
I do love GoldenEye. I think it's a great Bond movie. I don't like the soundtrack because I'm not a fan of Eric Serra as a composer. Because in fact, the only soundtrack of his that I enjoy is Fifth Element.
I just watched that again for the first time in like a decade last month.
I also hear Fifth Element music and like to think of as, you know, Mila Jovovich, you know, topless.
Yeah. When I think of Fifth Element music, I just think of that opera scene with
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So, all right, yeah, I figured it'd probably be on there somewhere. So cool. All right, Paul, what about you? What's your number 3?
My number 3 is a game I play all the dang time on my channel, and I didn't realize how hard the music was until I started playing this game not too long ago, and it is just, yeah, man, it's a banger. Deep Rock Galactic, my number 3.
Okay.
I just think that the music in that just goes way too hard, man. I that's how I kind of judge things. Is like, when did I play a game and go have a moment where I go, holy crap, the music's really, really good. And I remember doing that with Deep Rock real recently, and I'm like, I've been listening to the soundtrack on Spotify, you know, when I'm showering, when I'm cooking, and all that stuff. It gets me all pumped up, and yeah, man, Deep Rock Galactic to me is just one of those soundtracks that it hits all the moods. You know, there's like a quiet mood, and then it starts up and starts getting crazy and stuff like that. That's right, City's Bliss, Rock and Stone in the chat.
Rock and Stone.
Rock and Stone. Yeah, but yeah.
Also the Swarm themes are just phenomenal in that.
Yes, Look Up, Run, and what's the other one? It's literally this what I use to wake my alarm. The song Run, and what is it? Oh no, it's in this one. Oh, I'm blanking on the song. Oh, In the Belly of the Beast. Listen to In the Belly of the Beast from the soundtrack. That's the one I use to wake myself up. Do 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 do. It's like, oh my god, this is too hard, too badass. But yeah, I love Deep Rock Galactic as a game and as a soundtrack. Everybody, it's on Spotify. You could totally listen. There's two albums, and yeah, they're a lot of ambient music because there's a lot of downtime where you're mining and you're not shooting things, but like the shooty songs and the running songs, the songs where you're like trying to escape, you could tell like, oh, this is excavation music where you're trying to escape, and it's like, damn, these all go hard. So yep, Deep Rock Galactic,
Okay.
number 3.
Nice. Yeah. When I eventually get to starting to play that, I will have to pay attention to the music.
Keep an ear out.
All right. Let's see here. Angry Canadian, what's your number 3?
So this is interesting because this game, and particularly this game series, has now climbed up to the top of my top 3 game series of all time. Like to play, I really enjoy it, and this game in particular, never thought I would have really enjoyed the music from it, and the game itself. But because the music was amazing, the game just was even better. And so for number 3, I chose Castlevania Rondo of Blood. And I think personally, because I've been playing through the Castlevania series, because of if everyone knows Dempsey, Drunken Poet, all credit to him. He got me into Castlevania last year because I did a really good stream with him and Noporio Life where we're talking about the first 3 Castlevania games. I've never played those games before, and then I played it before the stream, and I was like, wow, the music in this is amazing. Like they knew what they were doing. Konami is fantastic. Well, old Konami is fantastic with their soundtracks. So recently I played Rondo of Blood, and I just can't stop playing the game. I mean, and I can't stop listening to the music. This game is very close to like perfect for me as far as like a perfect Castlevania game goes. But I'm still wet behind the ears when it comes to this franchise. So Rondo of Blood, I love all the tracks, even though a lot of them are arrangements from previous games. That's what makes it even better. You've got Vampire Killer, because every Castlevania game has to have Vampire Killer in it. You've got Bloody Tears from Simon's Quest, which is actually used to be my favorite game of Castlevania game until Rondo of Blood took the spotlight. And then Beginning is the main theme, basically, from Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. So I just love this game to death, and I listen to it now like all the time. I listen to it while I exercise. I mean, I just want to get shredded listening to this music, so I love it.
And from someone who's not played a lot of Castlevania games, Rondo of Blood, what was that originally on?
Originally it was on the PC Engine, and which was like a Japanese console for a while, and then eventually came to the US. You can get it on PlayStation Store with the Symphony of the Night bundle. But as far as like versions, like obviously the original one's the better one. So it was original. Oh, and then I don't like talking about it, but there is a Super Nintendo version called Dracula X, and I think the soundtrack for that is garbage compared to the PC Engine one. So that's just my personal opinion on it. But yeah.
You might be getting confused, Neo, because in North America it's called the TurboGrafx 16.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Okay, I've never even heard of PC Engine before.
And what's more is Rondo is a really rare game because it was a CD game, so you had to have the PC CD attachment, which was really, really expensive for the time. So not many people played that.
That explains why it's really expensive.
Yes, the PC CD was not a very popular peripheral on a very unpopular console to begin with.
One of those very, very, very niche games.
But a good game.
Yeah, mentioning Dracula X, I do know that one has somewhat of a bad reputation in that in the Metroidvania contest that I run, the Metroidvania of the month is the Castlevania Advance Collection, and Dracula X is part of that collection. I've heard some of my friends saying that, yeah, it's not very good.
I don't want to dunk on anybody that likes the Super Nintendo Castlevania games, but I think the sound fonts or whatever, like the chipboard for the music specifically, couldn't capture what is Castlevania music as well as the NES did. And then the PC Engine, obviously it's like it's a disc, right? So you can put whatever you want on it. But just listening to, because I listened pretty much to everything from the original Castlevania up to the DS games, the Super Nintendo ones just sound weird in my opinion, as far as like their soundtracks. So, like I said, no disrespect to anybody that likes those games. I can't like think about it. And this is just credit to CJP. I mean, he took the GoldenEye sound font and made it sound like the original Castlevania and Simon's Quest, made it sound even better than Super Castlevania's soundtrack. I mean, because of that sound font, it just works really well with that game series.
Okay.
And I'm getting ready to drop Dracula's Curse next Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, dude!
nice.
I can't wait.
That one was fun because there's some songs with some really odd time signatures in that third one.
Cool. All right, let's see here. I think, where is it? I just want to double check and make sure, but I'm pretty sure. Yes, I do have everyone's links to their channels in the stream description preloaded. So if you aren't subscribed to all of these fine gentlemen, go into that stream description and subscribe to their channels. And
Yes.
we'll look forward to CJP dropping that track next week then. And
it's the complete soundtrack. So it's all 22 tracks from the game.
Awesome.
Okay.
Nice.
Very cool.
And Dude says that Rondo of Blood was also released on PSP.
Yeah, so
Good to
I'm
know.
glad he brought that up because it includes, it's a remake basically, like a 3D-ish type remake of Rondo of Blood, and it includes the original Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night. But the remake 3D is like really not that good. I think I listened to that soundtrack and it just doesn't hold a candle to the PC Engine or Turbo Graphics for you North American people. So.
All right. And then I guess we'll go to DJ next for his number 3.
All right. So this is another RPG. So Neo, I'm sorry, you won't know anything about this, but it's fine.
I like RPGs. I like JRPGs.
Well, this one is a JRPG. So.
Okay, I
The
figured.
J-est of RPG.
This one might be the J-est of RPGs, but it's a really easy choice for so high on the list. Final Fantasy VI.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I see the nods, and you know what's up, my boy Nobuo Uematsu.
Yes.
Just I think he was at the peak of his career with FF6. I don't like sevens as much. I don't care how popular it is. It doesn't sound as good. I think it's because they moved over to a different, set of hardware. It just sounds primitive compared to FF6. The later Final Fantasies, when they were still using sound fonts or like MIDI software, did sound better, like with FF8 and 9. But 6 was just, it's so good. Every single track is just amazing. I used to do this before I had like effective ways of recording, game music. I would hold my old like Sony boombox up to my TV, and I would record music from the game, like just holding it up to like the TV speaker. And I did that for like every song in Final Fantasy VI and a few other games around that time. I liked it so much because I just wanted to listen to it all the time.
I did that, but I did it with running it through my dad's cassette recorder. I ran an audio out from the TV.
Oh, that's clever.
And then recorded it onto cassette from there.
Nice.
I had the terrible audio like DJ because I did the same exact thing. I took anything I could record stuff and just put it up, and I told everybody shut up as I was recording.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, DJ's right about number 6. I've not played that game or any of those games, but I listened to the soundtracks because a friend of mine told me to. And yeah, there's like I can agree with you. I can understand how 6 just stands out much more than like 7, even though 7 is iconic. But something about 6, whether it's the composition or even just the chip tune for it, just is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, the compositions are still comparable between 6 and 7, but it sounds like with 7, Uematsu didn't use as many like effects with the instruments as he did with 6. Like 6 has some really good like panning. It has like reverb and vibrato and like other effects on the actual instruments. And 7, a lot of them sound really, really plain, and it's just it's almost like if you listen to them side by side, you're like, what the hell happened here? It's such a downgrade.
Well, I think a lot of it is he was learning the hardware.
That's what I was thinking too, because 7 was it wasn't like a launch game for PS1, but it was still like, it was new hardware. It was I think it was 97 when that came out, so PlayStation was only a few years old by that point.
Yeah, it was only a couple years old at that point.
Yeah.
He He did. Did he? Who did Chrono Trigger? Was that him?
It was him and someone else. He
Was
wasn't
this
the only one.
Was this after Final Fantasy VI or before?
It was Chrono Trigger's 95, Final Fantasy VI is 1993, so it was before.
Okay, all right. I'm just trying to piece things together.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Similarly, I've not played any Final Fantasies since JRPG is not my thing, but I do know that a lot of them are well regarded for having a lot of great music. So cool. All right. Well, I think I will go next and we'll finish off number 3s with Jason. So for my number 3, probably won't be a surprise to anyone. My number 2 and number 3 are ones that I do mention often. But my number 3, I haven't played it in a while, and just listening to the music, like, I gotta play it again. So I actually started playing the game again last night, and I'm probably put about 4 hours into it since last night because it is one of my favorite games ever, and my single favorite Metroidvania of all time, and that is Ori and the Will of the Wisps. This is when I met you guys, and you guys started asking about video game music. This is one of the ones where one of the few times where music stood out to me so much that I had to go and listen to it outside of the game before I even started my channel. So I figured this was probably going to make my list. I wasn't sure where it was going to fall. But for me, it fell as my number 3. I listened through the soundtrack, and it's just one of the most, even if you weren't like a gamer, just listening, like, this is like classy music. I think like people who like hoity-toity people like go to the opera and stuff would probably listen to this and really enjoy it. And it's just, the music is beautiful, and it made me want to play the game, so I booted up again last night, and I've been playing through it. And yeah, it's phenomenal music to go with a phenomenal game. I can't really say much more, but yeah,
that's a soundtrack
excellent.
that you just want to put into the background and just have anybody knows, like, the first person that noticed be like, what's this music? And then you're like, oh yeah, it's from a video game. And then if they don't know video games very much, like, no, it's not. It's like, yeah it is. And you have to just tell them this is from a game, and then you go into the game. Yeah, there's so many soundtracks that are so great to get people that aren't video game people to be like, yeah, video games are pretty good when it comes to music.
Yeah, like, hey, what is this music? Oh, you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior, Ori and the Will of the Wisps? I cannot rave enough about this game. It is one of my favorite games of all time, and the music definitely helps bump that up. The Blind Forest has excellent music as well, but I listened to the Blind Forest soundtrack as well, and it's close, but the Will of the Wisps, in my opinion, is better. So, and with that will end us off with number 3s with Jason.
So, as I was talking about my intro to music from the NES and all that kind of stuff, I kind of left one game off of there because it's my number 3. But it's not the original NES version of it, but my number 3 is DuckTales Remastered. From when the game opens up, from having the DuckTales theme song that was, I can't say remade, but quality remade up that we were getting ready for, to everything from the thing. Obviously, anybody can talk about the new Moon theme. It's a great song, but the other things out there. One of my favorite songs on that is a really small little song, and that is Scrooge's Office. If there was anytime I walked into my office and I could just sit down in my chair and have that song play, just because it's like such a calming, relaxing song that you feel like you've done something for the day and you're ready to do something else, or you're just ready to go, but just sitting in your chair, I can hear that song right now. It is so great. And then as I was listening to more of it, the Transylvania theme song on there, I forgot how much they remastered that on the remastered version of that. And that song kicks a lot of butt, because I won't say the other word. Because there were some parts in that song I was like, oh, they added that to the song. And I'm just listening to it, I was like, holy crap, that is way, way better than what they had on the NES. But again, not saying it was bad, because again, they took the gigantic skeleton that was the NES music and they remastered it to add whatever it was. But even the bad songs that I say bad, like the Himalayas that you have to listen to a bunch of times, and like the Amazon and all that kind of stuff, still aren't terrible songs, especially with the remastered and they adding things to it. But also, and then when you beat the game, the credits and the ending themes that they play with it are just like remixes and remasters, just calming, being like, "Hey, you beat this game," are fantastic.
I'm literally listening to the Scrooge's Office music as you said that speech, and that just went so perfectly together. Hilarious.
Yeah, I do know. I've heard that game mentioned a number of times, not necessarily in relationship to music, but I have heard that a lot of people really like that game. So good to know it's got great music to go along with it.
It's back from when Capcom could really do no wrong when it came to platformers. I mean,
And
they
music.
really could. You know, well, yeah, and music. I mean, because that one, Darkwing Duck, the Chippendales game. I mean, all the Disney Afternoon stuff that they put out back then.
Disney stuff is great.
They're so good as games, and of course, they had great music to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, Capcom also doing Mega Man at the time. So
Street Fighter.
they had platformers down to a science at that time.
Right.
That was their forte at the time.
Right. Yeah. That was before. They were doing Street Fighter and all that. Yeah, they were all platformers, and yeah, those were all bangers as well. Dang it.
But Street
Capcom.
Fighter 2 confused me because I remember playing Street Fighter 2010.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like,
And there's a guy named Ken in that game too.
like, what does this have to do with Street Fighter 2010?
It gets even worse because the subtitle is The Final Fight. So it's
right,
it's neither
yeah.
Street Fighter nor The Final Fight, but it has both.
Nor a
in the same-
Capcom game?
No,
Yeah.
it is a Capcom game.
It was a Capcom game. Okay.
Yes.
Is this some sort
So
of
real
weird
confusing.
Frankenstein of franchises?
No, no,
'cause it all
it's
came out before those.
Yeah.
it's its own beast entirely. It's like a science fiction game, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
just
a
ran out of
interesting game.
names. It just started running out of names. Like, let's take 3 names from other things.
We'll take Ken, but he's a scientist that has robot armor, and he's got to do all this other stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
no, wait. This was all created before Street Fighter, so there was no Ken. They took from this game a whole bunch of stuff and then created new stuff on the SNES. So they created Final Fight. They created
no.
Ken.
Well, they had Ken because Ken was on the original Street Fighter game that was in the
Oh, he
arcade.
was.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
they just took a name and it was a very confusing time if you were following any lore of Street Fighter, which don't. But anyway, but yeah.
Hilarious.
All right. Cool. Well, I think that is a perfect segue into number 2. So I'll go ahead and start it off because that segues into my number 2 with Capcom and platformers at the time. And so for my number 2, so like we were saying earlier, like talking about like music you put in your car and you'd listen to on a drive, which I rarely ever do. And I haven't actually done that with this specific soundtrack, but there are so many amazing metal covers that I've listened to in the car all the time. But listening back to the actual original soundtrack for this game is still freaking awesome and gets my heart pumping, gets me like, yeah, let's go. And that's my favorite Mega Man series. Not my favorite Mega Man, but my favorite series because Mega Man has a lot of different, sub-series. Mega Man X, my favorite is Mega Man X3, but music-wise, Mega Man X1 can't be beat. The first Mega Man X music is fantastic, and I've listened to I have a playlist of metal covers of that, but I'm going to add the original songs into it as well because listening back through the original songs, they're freaking awesome as well, and there's not a bad song on that soundtrack, and that's definitely something that I could put in my car and listen to, where I go whenever I'm going somewhere. So yeah, to play off what you were saying, during that time, Mega Man or Capcom and their platformers and their music was top notch.
Yeah, no, I agree. X is in my honorable mentions. It was one of those that were in the 10, but I took it off because again I didn't go with the covers. I just went like, all right, I can listen to this and then be like, all right, it can fade away now and go to the next one, but it just keeps going a little bit. I'm like, all right, I can't have that in my car all the time, so I had to take it off. But again, I agree. Mega Man X is, I think and now I'm thinking about it, I can't say like 2 and X are my 2 favorite, but I can't choose right now. I was gonna say X is better than 2, but now I'm like, can I say that? So I'm not gonna say that.
I'm team 2.
2 and X are great. I was gonna say 2's X is better. I was like, no, I'm not gonna say anything because I can't choose right now.
Yeah.
I can. X is my favorite.
It's good. It's very good.
The
What
only
were you gonna
reason
say, Paul?
two to me is better than X is a couple songs really, but one that just like to me is like the ultimate. Okay, yeah, the two ultimate Mega Man songs in general is Flashman. I don't know what it is about Flashman from 2, but some about that just is the most banging song. And then Dr. Wily's theme, Stage 2, the yeah, that just goes too hard.
I know we're still talking about X, but like 2, I'm gonna beat you on that one too. Like the opening of the game.
Oh yeah,
Like it starts calm, and then you realize, and then it just goes up and then hits. So you're like, okay, cool. But yeah, like again, but I think X has more, like more robot themes that just together all go. Because like,
right.
yeah, I don't know. I get it. Like, X, man, it's tough to choose between the two. I can't choose.
There's a couple of songs on X3 that I like better than any of the ones in X1. But like I said earlier, as a soundtrack in its entirety, there's some in X3 that I'm like, I could take it or leave it. But every single song in X is awesome.
Mhm.
So that's why I have to go with X.
Neil, I just sent you a link on Discord. There's a channel I found a long time ago. This guy basically took the X music and he did it under like no console limitations, meaning instead of like the same 30-second loop, he like improv the rest of it and like
Okay.
makes it into a full-on song. I mean, like kind of like what the metal covers are. So I sent you one example, but he has like I'm pretty sure all the X tracks in it as well on his channel. I think you'll really like it because it's still within the SNES sound soundboard. So I think you'll like it.
Cool. Yeah, I got that DM. I'll definitely be checking that out. Yeah, the couple guys that I listen to, like the one I listen to the most is I think it's Family Jewels, and he does a Mega Man X medley of basically like all the songs in one. It's like an 8-minute song, and it's got like clips from all of them. I've listened to that so many freaking dozens of times. It's awesome.
If you're looking for some good cover options, I don't know if you've ever heard of The Advantage. But they were back in the early 2000s, and they had 2 albums that I remember that came out, and they were all covers of NES music. But it was 2 guitars, bass, drums.
Cool.
Not specifically metal, but
right.
Still rock. But they played them almost note for note accurate.
Cool. I think I know who you're talking about. I think I've seen them before.
Because there was like them, there was the mini bosses, and the Neskimos were kind of the big 3 of that era of doing video game covers.
What was that second name you said?
The mini bosses.
Mini bosses. That one sounds familiar.
They did a Castlevania 3 medley that's phenomenal.
Then there were Super Guitar Brothers. I remember them later on, but they were just acoustic, and they did great acoustic covers.
Oh, and then who remembers Group X's? Sorry, I'm just thinking of covers. Group X's Mario medley. Hey, Frank, you want to play Super on the Ice? Who remembers
no
Group
idea
X?
what
I
you're
remember
talking
that.
about.
I know
Oh,
what he's
man.
talking about.
Group X. That's some
I
old
got this
school.
new game, and I want to play it. It's called Mario Twins. Yeah, I know about that, Paul.
So good, so good. That's the best cover right there.
All right. So who's gonna go next for their number 2?
I'll go next.
All right,
So,
Jason.
DJ already mentioned one of them, but I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say for my number 2, I'm going to choose Final Fantasy VII. But I'm going to choose the remake of Final Fantasy VII.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
That the songs that they remade and added to, with adding extra songs to it, were insane. Obviously, you could just take any original song from the original 7 game. They were there. And then you get songs like the Genova Battle. I, to this day, love the Genova song. I think that's better than One Winged Angel. That's just me. There's those groups that choose between the two. When you get in that battle and then you just have a new Genova song, you think, and then part 2 of that battle hits, and then you get the original Genova song, how it goes, and it hits so damn hard. I literally had to pause the game because I was like, what the heck is going on? Because it is just the insanity of that song. And obviously it fits the mood of the game. Also, like the Smash and Break 'em, that was like an extra Tifa kind of theme in a way, but that was in a certain area. I heard that song for the first time. I was like, what are we doing? Then we get Due Recompense, which is a lot of people are like the Final Fantasy VII the rave song when you're in the like running from a tunnel thing like that, and the song just hits. You're like, am I playing a Final Fantasy game or what am I doing? Because it's just the biggest rave type of song that's going on. And then another one that I listened to yesterday for a bunch of times, but it's the Cornero Coliseum. If you can't listen to that song and feel like you're gonna get ready to like run through a wall, I don't know what song does. It is just a song that it's a small, simple song, but you're hearing, you're like, all right, you're preparing yourself for something. And then I don't know. It is that album is great. I have it sitting over there.
One of those songs that can make you feel like you can take on the whole empire yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're taking down the Hell House. Again, they read the Hell House song. And I mean, there's so many songs that are on there. I wish I had my my Rebirth soundtrack because I've listened to some of it. I have a small one, but I have that coming in too. But listen to that one, I still go back to the remake because the songs that they had in there was just such a change, but such a familiar taste that it was just great.
Okay.
Right on.
Yeah, I have to agree with him. The remake's basically the only Final Fantasy VII game or Final Fantasy game I played to completion, because a friend highly recommended it to me. And yeah, after I beat it, I went and bought the soundtrack right away. And dude, that opening, like the train theme mixed in with the theme of Final Fantasy, that every time, without a doubt, I listen to that, I get goosebumps. I mean, it's just like the blaring horns and everything. Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Like I said, the songs that I mentioned, they're just the new songs. Like I didn't mention like Aerith themes in there. Like, I didn't mention like the bombing run theme. I didn't mention everything that we know from the original game, just done with the orchestra that we kind of started hearing later on as the game's soundtrack's been getting more and more popular. But that's all in the game. And if you love this song from the OG 7, you're gonna hear it better in remake, and then you're gonna hear other songs in there. You're like, what the heck is this? And they're just fantastic to listen to.
Yeah, the battle theme, specifically the jukebox one, that's like a house theme or whatever. It goes way too hard. I actually bought the Rebirth soundtrack, even though I don't have the console or the game, because I know it's gonna be an amazing experience just to listen to it. So they like knocked it out of the park for like a soundtrack remake or whatever. Like that, it's amazing.
I do agree 100%.
All right. Well, let's keep on the clockwise train here. Let's go with you, Canadian, for your number 2.
All right. Well, I guess CLS isn't gonna be here for this because my number 2 is a Zelda title, and like I mentioned, my top three are basically my favorite gaming franchises, and unfortunately, Zelda is number 2, but that's not a bad thing. I love the music. I love every Zelda's soundtrack. But for number 2 specifically, I went with Twilight Princess because I think Twilight Princess has the most emotion for a Zelda soundtrack. There's a lot of great themes that you hear in this from the different characters you encounter, as well as the different environments you go to. But around this time, when I was getting into this game in particular, maybe a couple years later, I was really into orchestrations of like video game soundtracks, especially when it's done by fans. So there's a channel out there that did basically the entire Twilight Princess soundtrack into full-on orchestration without like any like weird electronic notes or excuse me instruments. And I listen to that all the time over the original game soundtrack, but I still appreciate the melodies that were composed by Koji Kondo and 2 other individuals. And I can listen to it like anytime. Like Ocarina of Time, it's a hit and miss for me. Even though I love that soundtrack, same with Wind Waker. I can't listen to those all the time, especially every single track. But Twilight Princess, I can listen to every single track that's in that album and never really get bored with it. So that's why it's number 2 for me.
All right. Yeah, good
Very
pick.
good.
Yeah, I need to go back. I didn't listen to that one in my homework because I knew if there was going to be a Zelda game, it was going to be Ocarina of Time. But I'll have to put that on my playlist and give it a listen. because that is my other favorite Zelda game, as we found out when we ranked favorite Zelda games a few weeks ago. So, all right, that'll take us to Paul for his number 2.
I'm actually surprised that this game hasn't been mentioned, but I don't, everyone's play style is a little different.
Dude has to mention Midna's Lament alone makes the Twilight Princess soundtrack, so that must be a really good one.
I need to listen to Twilight Princess again because it's been a minute, and if I was to pick a Zelda one, I actually probably would have picked what's the SNES one?
Link to the Past.
Link to the Past. That's a really good one. But my number 2, I'm actually listening to it right now because it's a lot of people use this soundtrack when they rant on YouTube, especially if anyone watches Asmongold. This is always playing in the background when he's ranting, and that is the Skyrim soundtrack.
Oh, that
Skyrim. This is my only orchestral thing in my whole list of lists. Every other, actually, a lot of my list has been like electronic music, and I'm more of a rock guy, so it's kind of probably why I bumped Tekken to number 3, because that's like the only one that's like actually like kind of rocking. It's got some guitars and stuff in there, but everything else is like kind of electronic with like I said, Deep Rock Galactic and GoldenEye. Well, GoldenEye kind of felt was a little rocking as well, but old instruments and stuff. But Skyrim just has such a beautiful orchestral soundtrack from start to finish. From when you open the theme and that starts playing quietly and starts building up in the intro theme song, and then starts freaking blasting everything. Skyrim is for the Nords.
For the Nords.
I was team. What was the blue guys?
The Imperials.
The Imperials were the red, weren't they? What was the
yeah,
Stormcloaks. I think I was team Stormcloaks. But oh yeah, they were all Nords up there. Hell yeah, man! That soundtrack, I'm listening to it right now, and each place you go into, battle music when it starts happening is iconic. You had Insidious Bliss. You had me at Asmongold rants. Yeah, dude. If you ever watch an Asmongold video and he starts ranting, you hear very faintly in the background Skyrim music always playing, and it's perfect. It's a perfect rant music. I'm listening to it right now as I rant. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna listen to Skyrim music for the rest of this episode in the background because it just goes so well with ranting, and it's just so calming at some points. Certain towns. Man, like when the music just starts playing in certain towns, I just get taken back. I'm like, oh, take me back to being a sneaky thief, blasting arrows at everyone's face. It was, yeah, that there's not much more to be said. It's just a really, really, really good, almost perfect orchestral just composition from front to back, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Great soundtrack. I will have more to say about that in a little bit.
Right on.
So good pick. All right, DJ, what is your number 2?
I can't let my favorite Mega Man go out like this. Paul dropped
I figured
it.
it was going to be there.
I dropped the ball. I know, DJ.
These injustices won't stand. Okay, no. Mega Man X is good. Mega Man X1 is good, but Mega Man 2 is my number 2 pick. I loved it so much. I did 2 remix episodes of it on Retro Remix back in the day. Great music. I know it's simplistic. I know it's NES. The songs are like 30 to 40 seconds. I don't care. I will listen to them on repeat all day long if I have to. Great music. One of the soundtracks that inspired me to write video game music or game music in the first place and do remixes. What more can I say about it? It's Mega Man 2. It's phenomenal. Okay.
I figured it'd be on your list somewhere.
It hurt me. It hurt me to take it off. But like Jason said, like, would I blast the original version, or I would rather blast my covers versus the original version, because I tweaked it a little bit. I made certain I made certain parts harder and then heavier, so there's like ups and downs. Whereas it like you said, it's just the same 30-second loop over and over. But those compositions are just so good. Like I'm telling you, Flashman. I don't know what about Flashman, but that song is just too good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. everything.
I don't want to be that guy, but if Mega Man 2 wasn't so good, we wouldn't even have a Mega Man X. Okay, we wouldn't even have the later games if Mega Man 2 didn't put the franchise on the map, and Mega Man 1 sure didn't do it.
Mic drop.
Exactly.
All right. And finishing us off for our number 2s will be CJP.
Well, and actually, I had to make a last minute an alteration.
Ooh, called an audible, huh?
Well, yeah, because with mentioning remakes and remasters, my number 2 was actually Link to the Past, but I actually have to give it to A Link Between Worlds.
Nice.
It took everything that was fantastic about Link to the Past and just added just great sauce on top of it. It added some new tracks that were great, but it also remastered and revitalized that original soundtrack, which to this day is still one of my favorites. So
that's only on the 3DS, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was one of the few times a direct sequel I actually enjoyed in the Zelda series. Because Majora's Mask,
Yeah, same.
Spirit Tracks I didn't like.
Which one was that?
Spirit Tracks.
Oh, Spirit Tracks. Yeah.
I loved Phantom Hourglass, even with the weird stylus controls. I liked Phantom Hourglass quite a bit. Well, Spirit Tracks I hate, especially because there's one weapon that you have to blow onto the mic for, and the time.
yes.
Heck.
I never played Spirit
Man.
Tracks, so.
CJP is becoming my new best friend because he's saying all the right stuff right now.
So yeah,
I was gonna say. Oh, my bad. My internet cut out. Go ahead.
No, good. I got it.
Oh, I was gonna say the guitar theme that plays in like when you get out of your house right away in Link Between Worlds, the string guitar little melody. I love that. I tried to learn how to play that on the piano. It was like way too hard, but I love that theme in that game in particular.
Well, Hyrule Castle and the Dark World are both two of my favorite tracks of that game. And then when you're playing like Breath of the Wild and you're in Hyrule Castle and you just hear the faint, like slow melody of that Hyrule Castle theme, and it just brings you right back. You're like, oh, this is what it could have sounded like back in the day if they'd had the technology.
Yes.
Just hearing that really faint version of it in Breath of the Wild was fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, well, CLS Studios will be happy to hear that 3 Zelda games have made the list, and we're not even to our top ones yet. So, excellent. All right, well, that will do it for our number 2s. But before we get to our number 1s, we are going to go through our honorable mentions. So I will go ahead and start off to play off of what Paul was saying with his number 2. Skyrim was one of my honorable mentions. I listened to, that's the first time I'd actually listened to the actual soundtrack outside of the game. And yeah, the whole soundtrack is phenomenal. That is actually, I didn't really think about it until I was thinking about it just earlier today, that the music in that game did really stand out to me. So much so that I actually learned the theme song chorus in the Dova language. I loved it so much. I know the words in the dragon language from Skyrim.
Nerd.
So, yes. So that is one that did stand out to me a lot. It didn't make my top 5, but it is phenomenal. It did make my honorable mentions.
I thought you were going to say that the Skyrim music was so good that it made Skyrim the game good.
Well, Skyrim is a great game.
Sorry. Once you played modded Skyrim, vanilla Skyrim just isn't the same. So that's why I'm tainted.
I have not played it modded, so yes, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, a couple the other ones that were battling it out for my 4th and 5th spots. Let's see here, where did my notes go? Also, another Metroidvania that was on my top list of Metroidvanias is the Mummy Demastered. That soundtrack is awesome. I've listened to it probably like 4 times since I started doing my homework for this because I love it so much. But I couldn't say that I like it more than the other ones. So it's hard to cut it down to honorable mentions. But that one is great. It's got like this 80s like techno synthwave like style to it. It's like a 16-bit because it's basically like a Super Nintendo game, but it came out a few years ago, and the music in that is awesome. The other ones, so another game that I've been playing recently, I just finally finished getting 100% completion in the game and all the DLC a week or two ago, and the music was really good. And I was like, and that was Immortals: Phoenix Rising, and I was like, man, this music sounds a lot. It has a lot of the same vibes as the Ori and the Will of the Wisp music. Looking it up, it's by the same guy as Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Gareth Coker did both the Ori games, and he did Immortals: Phoenix Rising. And I was like, that makes sense on why it sounds so much like Ori. Great soundtrack. I listened to it in its entirety, and it was great. But yeah, another honorable mention. And then one that's gotten mentioned by a couple of you guys tonight, because I have always said that Perfect Dark is better than GoldenEye in every way. And people are like, no, the music in GoldenEye is better. So I listened to the soundtrack for GoldenEye for literally the first time just recently outside of the game. And I was like, dang, you're not wrong. This soundtrack is phenomenal. But then I listened to Perfect Dark soundtrack as well. And I think it's just as good. I literally could not pick which soundtrack is better. They are both freaking awesome. So they both are tied for honorable mention, but they did get bumped off my top. And then my last...
They were both composed by Grant Kirkhope and Graham Norgate. So
I figured, since Perfect Dark is basically the spiritual successor to GoldenEye, I figured that the music was done by the same people, which would make sense on why they're both phenomenal soundtracks.
I listened to that. I never played or listened to Perfect Dark, so I gotta.
So it was my favorite. Perfect Dark was my favorite game for like nearly a decade. I love that game.
It's a great game.
And then one that I listened to, and when I listened to it with the vocals, I was not a big fan of it because a lot of the vocals are very growly, and I don't really like that type of vocals. But if you take the vocals out, and just listen to the music, or the soundtrack actually at the end actually had the songs with clean vocals, and I loved it. Is the soundtrack for Metal Hellsinger was really good, and I wasn't a big fan of it with the vocals, the like I said, the normal vocals, which are very growly, but the second half of the soundtrack had the clean vocals, and I loved it. And then my last honorable mention is not a game I've ever played, but I've listened to the song tons of times. I wasn't even sure if there was more music in the game than just this song, but there was, and the whole soundtrack is awesome. But the theme song is killer, and that's Thunder Force 4, which I think was a Genesis side-scrolling shmup from back in the day, like similar to R-Type. And for being like a 16-bit game, that music goes hard. So those are my honorable mentions.
Neo, did you ever hear the Sega CD version of Thunder Force 4 soundtrack?
That might have been the one I listened to. I don't know. You have to point me in the direction. I'll tell you later.
Yeah, there's like the Genesis one that's done with like the Yamaha like sound chip, and then there's a Sega CD version where it's like all Redbook audio.
I don't know what that means, but
it's basically CD audio. It's
CD
what
quality.
CD audio used to be called back in the day.
Okay,
when it was
it went from chip tunes to better music instruments.
You have to point me in the direction to the two, and I'll let you know afterwards which one.
I'll see if I can find them for you.
But I have a feeling I think I might have listened to both. But yeah, that one was awesome. And the only reason why I even know about that one is because probably like, I don't know, 6 to 8 months ago, Craig, when he used to do his evening streams, one evening he did a stream where people were just suggesting video game music, and he was playing it, and someone suggested that one, and I was like, that song is freaking awesome. And so it's been in my metal playlist ever since. And so I actually went and listened to the whole soundtrack for the first time rather than just that one song. And the whole soundtrack is really good, but the theme song is killer.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that was the stream where Craig didn't condone my number 4 pick in all the Street Fighter EX music, which I still think he's crazy.
Me and Jason have been trolling Craig. Well, not lately, but since those streams, we're like, hey, will you play Guile's theme from EX? That's pretty great. And he's like, no. And we're like, you didn't give it a chance. You stopped it right before it went hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mad at Craig for that.
So, all right. Let's go reverse, counterclockwise. CJP, what are your honorable mentions?
I've got a few. Dragon Quest 11. Now you have to do the definitive edition Switch version, because that's the one with the fully orchestrated soundtrack that the PS5 or PS4 didn't get, which really pissed off the Sony boys. Because it's a fantastic soundtrack on its own, but it also had a section where they had reorchestrated versions of each of the previous 9 Dragon Quests. So there's like my favorite track of all time is a Left Guard, the overworld theme from Dragon Quest 1. And they did a phenomenal orchestral version of that. The other ones I had was and this is really kind of a deep pull, Wing Commander 1 from the PC.
It's a good choice.
Flight Sim. And even the NES version of the soundtrack is quite good.
Yeah, it's really good.
The other one I had on there was Skies of Arcadia.
Ooh, that's a good pick.
From Dreamcast. Fantastic RPG.
Yeah.
Another really deep pull from the PC, Masters of Orion 2.
Never heard of that one.
It's a strategy game, but kind of not quite StarCraft, but more like Planet. You have to organize and set your resources on each planet, and then worry about other species on other planets coming after you, and then there's these Antarans that'll come out of nowhere and attack you. It's a very dry game, but it had a great soundtrack. And then my last one was Final Fantasy VI. I do love that soundtrack to death. Didn't quite crack my top 5. Came very close though. Very close.
All right.
Decent.
Good stuff. Yeah, except for that one, I think I'd at least heard of all those games.
Yeah, Master of Orion 2 is it's kind of a niche style of game. If you're into like StarCraft or like Sim City, Sim World, those kind of games, Civilization, that would be more where that genre is. But it's all space based and planet based.
Yeah, that's a game that I've heard of that game, but I didn't play it, or obviously didn't even know if the soundtrack was as good as it is. So definitely wrote that down.
Especially the shipbuilding theme, which is fantastic.
All right.
Nice.
DJ, what are your honorable mentions?
All right. So some of these are like pretty much anything by this particular composer, but let's see here. Super Mario RPG is a good one. Just about any NES game that Sunsoft put out.
Before you move on, I got to ask you about Super Mario RPG, original or remake?
Yes, would be the answer. I haven't even played the remake.
Both.
Yeah, I haven't played the remake, but I've heard enough of the music to hear that they did a really wonderful job with it. But yes,
worst case scenario, you could just switch it.
Exactly. But yeah, anything that Sunsoft put out on the NES was just phenomenal. Jason mentioned Batman, great soundtrack. Return of the Joker, in my opinion, is even better. But anything that uses the what was it called? I think it was like the 5B chip, which was like Sunsoft's proprietary sound chip that added an extra sound channel that they used for like a bass line, and that's why Sunsoft music sounds so unique.
The only one that did a little extra bass in any NES music with the chip tune was so good to hear.
Yes, yep. There weren't many games that did that, but Sunsoft did that with theirs, and Konami almost did it, but they because of a chip shortage, we never got like the proper Konami sounds. So Dracula's Curse sounds much different in Japan than it does here, and I think we never even got Gradius 2 because of the or because of the microchip shortage, which is a shame because that's a really, really good NES shmup. Anything by Jake Kaufman, he did stuff like Shovel Knight, he did Double Dragon Neon, really, really good stuff. Anything by Skaven, he did stuff like Bejeweled 3, he did songs in Unreal Tournament. By the way, Unreal Tournament in itself, phenomenal soundtrack. Deus Ex, phenomenal soundtrack. Any video game that uses tracker music, phenomenal soundtrack. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox on that. The classic Sonic games, Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles, fantastic soundtracks right there. Just about any Konami NES games, fantastic soundtracks. Too many to list. I mean, it just goes on and on. I already mentioned the Fullen Brothers already. And I think the only other thing is actually a fan game, and it's kind of cheating, but Streets of Rage Remake. I've played this on stream. it combines Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3, and every single song in all 3 games has been redone lovingly by the fans, and they did such a good job. The first
DJ,
level in Streets
I was just gonna say, if you had to choose 1, 2, or 3 for Streets of Rage, which one of those games? Is
Are
the
we
best
talking
one?
gameplay or music or just kind
Music,
of the
music,
total?
Music.
1, 2, or 3. Which one has the best soundtrack?
I think 2 kind of edges out 1, but it would be
does.
between 1 and 2. 2 has just a few more good tracks. That amusement park level, Dreamer, I think is the name of the track, is just so good. The first level,
First
Go
one, yeah.
Straight, is such a great song. But the first game's got some great tracks too, like Fighting in the Streets. You know, the first level.
Yeah, and the boss music, which is
and
the
the
same,
boss
I think,
music.
in the second one.
Yeah,
They made it better in the second one.
yeah, exactly. But that's my cheat pick. It's like a fan game, but it combines all of them together. Oh, and the last thing is Incredible Machine 2. It's an old DOS puzzle game, but it's just it's more nostalgic for me. But I just love the MIDI soundtrack in that game. It's just comfort music for me personally.
Nice.
All right.
And those
Yeah.
are my honorable mentions.
Good stuff. So Insidious Bliss is agreeing with CJP, saying that the Master of Orion and Master of Magic games were fantastic.
They are deep pull for PC gamers.
All right. Well, Paul, what about you?
It's funny. A lot of my honorable mentions have already been mentioned. So I'll just list the ones that have been mentioned. Mega Man 2, obvious reasons. On here, Street Fighter EX3. Hilarious. That's Jason's top, was it 4? EX?
Yep.
DJ just said it right now. Unreal Tournament.
I did not think about that, but yeah,
Unreal Tournament
now that you mention it, has some good music. I gotta go back and listen to
great
that.
music. Halo 2. Also honorable mention for me, Streets of Rage 2, which is why I was asking that question, DJ.
Yeah.
F-Zero X.
Oh, that's a good one.
Was
That's
that the GameCube
real
one?
good.
That's
No, that was the 64 one. And
64.
I'm sorry, that game is superior to the GameCube one. I don't care.
I haven't even played the GameCube one, and I'll probably agree with you because the F-Zero X on the N64 was one of the best racers ever. This is why I can't play Mario Kart, because I'm like, F-Zero exists. Why you go slow on a cart? Just let's go faster. I want to see that. I want to be upside down and sideways, pushing you off the track. That's my kind of racer.
The track music for Silence in F-Zero X goes so incredibly hard.
There's a couple songs that's just straight death metal in there.
They do.
Like it's like straight death metal blast beats and all that. So that was real good. I have a few more honorable mentions. Wait. No, I did that. Oh, and my last honorable mention, which I actually should have started off with, was FTL.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Never played it, but I know about that game.
Great soundtrack. It's just 8-bit chiptune, but I used to wake up when Gabs, my girl, was addicted to playing that. She would play it in my in my room, and I'd wake up to hearing the little theme song, like the chiptuning intro music is like very light, very like almost just like minimal, just one note that holds one note for like a long time, and you're like, is that it? And then it comes back in, and it's so pretty. Real great chiptune music, FTL. And I think that is my honorable mentions. I was just Street Fighter EX music, like Jason was saying, very underrated. I was listening to Ryu's theme, Guile's theme, obviously that song we keep memeing on. And then like I said, Unreal Tournament. These too many to name, but those are just a few that I can remember that off the top of my head. I'm sure tomorrow I'm gonna remember something and kick myself entirely and be like, that would have changed everything.
That's usually what happens.
But I just went with my gut, and this is where it led me.
All right. And Canadian, what about your honorable mentions?
So for my honorable mentions, these are game series that I truly love, and I had to just choose one song from the remainder game series. So for Super Mario games, I chose Super Mario Sunshine. Anytime I want to travel to a tropical paradise, I think of Super Mario Sunshine. The music in the game, every track in that game is awesome, and Great memories from that. When it comes to Donkey Kong, I grew up
DK Rap.
Yeah, I grew up with Donkey Kong 64, so I like what Grant Kirkhope did with that music. But I still love the country songs. Just DK 64. As funny as the DK rap is, but the rest
I
of the
love,
soundtrack is fantastic. So
I love the DK
I
Rap.
just want to really understand the lyrics. His coconut gun can fire in spurts. If he shoots you, it's gonna hurt.
that's
What are you
dropping some
trying to
fire,
say,
bro. So anyways, yeah, so Donkey Kong 64, when it comes to Star Fox Assault, only because it's basically reorchestrations from Star Fox 64, and the Star Wolf theme goes way too hard in that game with the sexy saxophone that's in that specific track. So if you played Smash Brothers Brawl, you would recognize it because it's one of the tracks in Brawl.
Was Star Fox Assault, was that the one on GameCube?
Yes, not to be confused with the terrible rare game known as
Ye-
Star Fox Adventure.
You're
We
right.
don't talk
No,
about that.
no, not the Dinosaur Planet one.
Yes, no, the one made by Namco that feels like an actual Star Fox game.
I have that game.
Mario Kart Wii. I like the Mario Kart series, and I think the music in that series is fantastic. And I've always enjoyed the Mario Kart Wii soundtrack, in particular. And then this final one's kind of like an odd one. It doesn't really fit in a series, but I recently rediscovered the Jurassic Park NES game and the soundtrack for that.
Oh, NES.
And man, like that first level goes like insanely hard when you're just running around trying to shoot raptors and T-Rexes and stuff, and the music's in the background. It's so I mean they worked with what they had with the NES, and you can tell like whoever wrote the music for it just like pushed it to the limit. So that's just like a kind of like a one-off type game. So that's my honorable mentions.
When I put out the tweet for this stream, Fractured Filter replied with some of his, and I think he put the Jurassic Park Super Nintendo game on there, which I had, and I never beat that one because I never could figure out how.
Whenever the Jurassic Park collection, the retro collection, becomes like physical, I'm gonna try to order that so I can replay some of those games because I'm very curious about that Super Nintendo one.
Yeah. I watched someone, because there's an achievement for beating it in under like 45 minutes. I was like, I played that game for years and couldn't figure out how to beat it. But, I was a kid, so maybe I'll finally get a chance to beat it and get achievements for it.
Yeah.
So, all right. And then, Jason, why don't you finish us off with your honorable mentions?
All right, so bear with me. There's a lot. So we already talked about Mega Man X and 2, so I don't need to talk about that anymore. Sonic 2, Chemical Plant Zone, best song.
That might have been the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, I think that's the best song in a Sonic game. Donkey Kong Country, whole album was about to be on my list, and then I had to bump it because there's some songs on there that are like not great, but again, anything that Rare made with music back then was fantastic. That's kind of a hint for what maybe my number one might be. F-Zero, super good. And then Third Strike, but the online edition, they added some more songs. They added a bunch of stuff to it, made it so much better.
Third Strike?
Street Fighter Third Strike online edition.
Street Fighter. Okay.
Yeah. They added more music to that, which was really, really good. Chrono Trigger.
Great music.
Yeah. Chrono Trigger, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Sega Rally. If you haven't heard that soundtrack, definitely listen to that one. Metroid 2. Another one that was on the Super Nintendo that some people know about but forget is Top Gear. If you're looking for another good racing,
I
that's
rented
a great
that.
one. Yeah, that's one of my favorite. Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And then we go into kind of cheating in one of them, the Tekken 8 Jukebox, because it has all the Tekken music plus some of the new good ones. So that's a little cheating. That's why I didn't make my list, but it has to be mentioned because if you like Tekken music, just listen to it. It's fantastic. A couple of last few of them that I have that were close to making my list and I was having to take out. Somebody said it in chat was Devil May Cry 5. I love Devil Trigger, but again, that song can't make my top 5, but I absolutely love that song. And then Zombies Ate My Neighbors. If you haven't listened to that soundtrack,
Ever.
That's a very, very good one. And then the one that was it was flirting with the EX soundtrack because I literally listened to both of those in my car all the time. But the Guilty Gear Strive soundtrack, I play a lot of fighting games, as a lot of people in the community know. I can't say I only play Guilty Gear because of the music, because the fighting game is fun, but the music in that game is what keeps me playing the Guilty Gear franchise, because the music in that is what makes the game. I mean, obviously, it's what each character is known for, and then when you play it, and each game has its different things for it. But the Guilty Gear stuff is so good. So if you have Spotify and you want to listen to some like hard rock music that's from a fighting game, just put in Strive, go from there. Revelator 2 is another good one too, but there's a lot of good stuff from the Guilty Gear franchise.
And dude's coming in saying Top Gear 3000 has an underrated soundtrack. So shout out to that game. Cool. All right. That will bring us into our number ones. So, anyone dying to go first?
Well, Jason basically gave his away.
I gave mine away.
All right, yeah, let's go with Jason.
I figured it out.
Go
ahead.
Go ahead, Paul. No, you
I was
first.
gonna say, I'm like, could I guess it? No, go ahead.
I'm gonna guess it.
Killer Instinct.
There it is. My number one is the Killer Instinct from the Xbox. So the 2013. The music on that game is probably, to me, the best music you can ever put in anything. Like the collection of the songs, everything like that. Mick Gordon did a lot of the songs. There's so much. Yeah.
Interesting.
There's so many songs in that game that, I mean, I wrote down all the songs that you should definitely listen to. So I'm going to list them all off. So I apologize. But if you've not listened to the soundtrack, I'm going to give you a way to jump in on it. But like, obviously, we're going to start with the Instinct. Everybody knows that one. That's just the main thing. I'm Back to Rise. That was TJ Combos. And that one was, when that song hit, everybody, like, that was on the second season of it. Everybody's like, okay, this music is something different. And they're going to do stuff with it. Then Touch Me, I'll Break Your Face. That is Orchid's great one. And again, it has a little bit of stuff from her original, but just at another high energetic music in a game.
That's a funny song title.
Oh, it's so good. Inferno, that was Cinder's theme. And I mean, if you want a theme that is super to the point and super just like all rock and you're just ready to go, Inferno is one of those songs. Some other ones that I just absolutely love, because it's a little bit more rock plus like a little bit more dance to it, which is always weird to say that, but that's what Killer Instinct did. It gave like a way to have like not like a very dancey type music, but with a hard rock edge. And I kind of like that. But Village of Whispers, super good. Temper and Vengeance, I think that might be my favorite song on the whole entire collection. Dragon Spirit. And then another great one, that because it was a callback for a guest character, but Enter Battletoad, because they had Rash from the game in there, so they did a remix of all the Battletoad music with Killer Instinct influenced and in there, and it was a great way to do it. And they have a breakdown of the Pause main theme in there and everything. So like if you liked Battletoad and you listen to the song, you're like, holy crap, this is fantastic. And then Chief Thunders, I can never say the name because it's like Tomb. I think that's the name of the song because that was his first name. If you want a song that's like, you wouldn't expect it because it has so many different layers, that's another one. But like those songs are just the tip of an iceberg, and there are so many more that I could have listed, but I can't because we'll be here till about 12 o'clock tonight in my time.
Yep. I know how you feel. That is it's funny. I just, when you said Battletoads, I was like, oh, Battletoads and Double Dragon. I forgot as an honorable mention. But no, yeah, dude, no, that Killer Instinct, even the old N64 Killer Instinct. I don't know if they take any of those and do anything with them, but I remember Killer Instinct.
Yeah, all the characters that got remade that were like, say, from Gold or from all that kind of stuff, they would have like parts of the skeleton, but they would just figure like, because in KI, music was actually part of the game. That's how you could do like combos and your combo breakers. Like people would like hear some of the music when you did stuff. The music started kind of playing along with it. So if you played just the game, you didn't hear the full soundtrack at all, ever. You're just hearing stuff. But it's the, like, you know, somebody's doing a 20-hit combo, the music gets louder and it starts getting to second parts of the song. But like if you just listen to the soundtrack, you can hear everything about it. But there is so many things in that game that were music based that were just fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, and I remember that being the first game I ever bought that actually did come with the soundtrack
Mhm.
on the SNES version. I'm like, this
Not-
is weird. I've never seen them actually package the soundtrack with the game.
That Killer Cut CD is so
Yeah.
good. By the way,
Yep, right there.
that was what made buying the Super Nintendo version worth it. Right there was
Yep.
that soundtrack. It's
It's
still
reversed,
good.
yeah.
It's
That's
still
really
good.
cool.
Still have my original one from back in the day. I
I
lost
think I
this
might
thing.
have mine too, actually.
Yeah, yeah. This is great, but what the remake or the 13 game did, they took just the songs that you loved, and again, made them just be its own thing. So
Mhm.
again, as you could tell, like I love the skeletons of songs from back in the day. Back when they first got created. But if you can make that, and again, it's a nostalgia thing, but make it even better, but use the same love that the original creators did, I'm all on board for it.
Hell yeah.
All right. And what's up, Forked Round is hopping in here. Good timing. We just started our number one. So if this is
Or bad timing because it's
or
towards
bad
the end.
timing. You're gonna catch the plot twists, and you're not gonna have any reason to go back and watch the whole stream. But no, it's a great stream. Definitely go back and catch it from the beginning when you have a chance. We've had some great mentions tonight.
Number two.
What was that?
And number one and number two. Every time I hear the number ones, I just immediately go to Scrubs.
Oh. Hilarious. All right, who else is gonna go up?
I don't want to go last, so I think I will go next. And so for my number one, so my number 2 and 3, anyone who's probably hung out on my channel probably knew that these would be on my list. But my number 1, I don't think anybody would guess because I didn't realize it until I was listening to it. And I wouldn't say it's a cheat answer, but it is effectively 2 soundtracks in one. And what it is one is a typical video game soundtrack with the music that plays while you're playing through the game, which is really, really good. However, what really puts it over the edge for me is if, like we were talking about earlier, what would be like the number 1 soundtrack that I would put in my car and crank up when I get to go on a drive. And the other half of this soundtrack, for this game, they wrote an entire 80s hair metal band album, and it is awesome. And the game I am talking about is the recent Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game.
Mm.
In the game, Star-Lord gets his name from an 80s band named Star-Lord, and they wrote an entire 80s metal album for this game, and that 80s metal album is awesome. I have listened to it so many times now, and I freaking love this album. It is so right up my alley. I love it, and I was like trying to put stuff over it to bump it down. I'm like, could this really be my favorite? And I love it. So nothing could beat it. It's my number 1. So I don't know if anyone's gonna have tomatoes to throw at me, but if you haven't listened to the Star-Lord album from inside the Guardians of the Galaxy game, it is awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I know.
Right on,
Like the other part of the soundtrack is great too. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and because I had listened to because the game opens up where you're on your bed as like a 13-year-old in like the late 80s or early 90s, and you got your headphones on. They even have the CD case. You can pull it out and look and read the lyrics to the song as you're listening to it in the game, like you would, back in the day when you got your first CD. You'd sit there and like read the lyrics as you're listening to it. They actually have like the full album with the CD and the case in the game.
That's cool.
It's so great. So yeah, so I've listened to that album a few times even before I did my homework for this stream. But what I didn't listen to yet, because I was like, there's got to be a separate part of the soundtrack that has the actual game music. And I listened to that, and the game music in the game is really good as well. So both of those put together just is awesome on both ends of the spectrum.
Nice.
So curious, have any of you guys played the recent Guardians of the Galaxy game?
I have not.
I
No,
played
but
a
you
little
have
bit of it.
sold
Not
me on
yet,
it
no.
now.
I
Okay.
kind of have problems giving Disney money for anything these days.
That's a fair point.
So I missed DJ in Canadian. What did you guys say?
I haven't played it yet.
Okay.
No, you've sold me on it now because that just shows like that's quite the dedication to write a whole like 80s album and throw it into the game, to add to the characters like depth and everything. That's pretty sweet. So
Yeah, because throughout the game, you go back and have like flashbacks in between every few missions to a very traumatic day in your childhood. And so you hear this album throughout those because you do that a couple of times through the game. And so you hear this album multiple times. And yeah, it's a pretty good game too. Everyone thought it was going to suck because it came out after the Avengers game, which was terrible, but it's actually a pretty good game as well. So I would recommend it. It was on Game Pass. It left Game Pass, unfortunately, but that's when I played it, was when it was on Game Pass. So, all right.
Dude saying sucks that one of the achievements broke on you.
Oh.
I guess.
Yeah. So I've talked about it on our Achievement Chasers a few times that I've had quite the ordeal with the achievements in this game, but I'm not going to get into that now because you can go listen.
Topic.
You can go listen to me rant about that on our Achievement Chaser stream. But yes, I've beaten the game like 2 or 3 times, and I've gotten all the achievements in the game except for and there's like 17 chapters, and I've got all of them except for chapters 14 and 15. And because of that, it won't give me the achievement for beating all the levels, even though I've beaten them all multiple times.
Damn.
So, but yeah, that's what he's referring to. But good game. So, all right. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. CJP, what is your number one?
And if you can't tell already, I am a massive JRPG fan. And
well, you mentioned it on Meme Stream just this last week that you're doing a very similar stream to this. Did you already do that, or is that upcoming where you're just ranking?
Not this week, but next week.
Okay, where you're ranking just JRPG soundtracks.
DJ is going to be joining me on that one.
Oh, cool.
And
but we'll get to plug that at the end.
Chrono Trigger. I mean, there's just not. I have yet to find a track on there I don't like, and it's just because of the way the game played, the story, and it of course it obviously takes me back every time I listen to it to those specific moments in the game. But then also my daughters listen to the soundtrack and have never played the game, but they both absolutely love it. So yes, I can't get any better than Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I can hear songs in my head right now too. So yeah, I that's why I was at my honorable mention. But like, yeah, it's one of those that you have to mention, and it's tough. But yes, like if you're looking for just great music put into a package that's in a really good game, that is just telling a story with the music, absolutely. Like I can't. It was hard for me not even put it in my top 5, but like it's just one of those songs that like if I'm listening to it, I'm like more relaxing in a way. But yeah, it was really tough.
Well, I mean, for me, oddly enough, my favorite track off the entire soundtrack is The Trial.
Which one's The Trial?
I'm
missing that one.
It's like that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep, that's the one.
DJ knows.
Oh, I know it.
Yeah, I figured that'd probably be on someone's list. So yeah, given that how highly well regarded that game is, just from pretty much respecters of RPGs, much less JRPGs.
Yeah, I think I heard after it was a Screw a top 10 best songs, and Chrono Trigger's Frogs theme was on there, and literally I was like, hey, that does sound pretty good. I kind of like it, and just went and covered it just because it sounded good. I liked it. I had an idea for it, and I went with it. And yeah, man, for sure. Like I said, I've never played Chrono Trigger, but a lot of those songs seeped into my ears, and I was like, damn, that is a good soundtrack.
All right, so
makes me want to find my DS so if I can play the DS version of it.
I just acquired that recently. I've never played that game, so I'm looking forward to playing it and hearing the music now.
Oh, yeah. It's
Same.
Such a good story. And there are multiple ways to beat it. Just depending on how brave you feel like being.
So, all right, so we got DJ, Angry Canadian, and Paul.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Scissors one.
Paul, let's go
Since
with
I
you
had
next.
to say something. All righty. I have mentioned this soundtrack and this game before. So the soundtrack itself, if you were to go on to Spotify and listen to the soundtrack to this game right away, I wouldn't really recommend it, just because I'll just say what it is. So my number one is Mirror's Edge.
Oh, you have mentioned that on my streams, man, multiple times.
So
I did not listen to that in my homework. I should have done that.
So it's if you listen to the soundtrack just like off of Spotify, it doesn't really do it justice as if when you're playing the game. So if you listen to a single track, it's going to be a one level track. So it's going to have all the moods in the whole level. So when you're being chased, that's a good chunk of the track. And then the parts where you're not being chased in Mirror's Edge, those are my favorite. But when you listen to it on Spotify, those parts are real short in the actual track, because it just loops over and over when you're trying to figure out whatever puzzle or whatever you're doing. So listening to the music in game is probably the best way to listen to the music. If you if you just listen to it on Spotify, these are just quick. They're like, a few minutes long. It goes through all these different moods. It's for the whole level. So you got to keep that into consideration if you do want to listen to this. And the only reason I became obsessed with the artist that made the soundtrack, and it's an artist called Solar Fields. I think he's like it's one dude. It's a Swedish guy. His real name is like Jorgen Sporgen or something. I don't know. I should look it up and not be an asshole. It's some sort of Swedish name, but he goes by Solar Fields, and I became obsessed with Solar Fields for 10 straight, like a whole decade, from 2007, from when that game came out. I'm like, I need to look up who this was. And for just a decade, I stopped listening to rock music, just only listened to like these Solar Field albums like over and over. If anyone wants to listen to a good look up Movements. It was an album in 2009 Solar Fields did. It's just ambient, chill music. Eventually, like sometimes it gets like it intensifies, but it's never like I don't know. It's so weird to explain, but smoking pot helps a lot. Definitely a stoner just thing to just be like, wow, man. But it's just so spacey, so ambient. Also a little bit of like lo-fi. This was like before lo-fi was a thing. It was just slow electronic stuff, and I became obsessed with it. And Mirror's Edge, just like that whole soundtrack. There were certain levels that when it kicked in, the last level, I forget what it's called, but the last level,
The Shard.
When the music starts playing for the Shard, something about that just makes me want to just tear up or something.
I remember the first time I played through that level, I think it gave me chills just from the music.
The music, yeah, and then it starts intensifying because you're getting chased, and it's back to but all that. But when it's just like chill and you're not being chased, it's like, oh my god, it's so pretty. It's so like I don't even know how to explain it. Just so spacey and ambient that like I don't know. If you're not into that kind of stuff, I could see, you're like, oh, this is too boring for me. I'm looking for more rock and more stuff like that. But this is my zen music. This zones me out. It zens, like I'm just total like, oh my god, it's like the most calming thing ever. And yeah, I've been preaching Mirror's Edge. Even Catalyst, the same guy came back to do Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and the music on that was fantastic as well. But yeah, I would recommend playing Mirror's Edge to experience the music. If not,
good game, and it's pretty short too.
Yeah, I could. You could probably beat it in like 6 hours or less. Probably.
I remember I started it one night. It was probably like 10 o'clock or something, and I was like, I'll just play the first couple levels. And then I ended up beating the whole game before I went to bed at like 3 a.m.
Yeah. Once you played it, yeah. If I played it right now, I remember it so well. I would just flow through the whole game. Yeah. I actually might do a Mirror's Edge stream real soon, just to let everybody hear the music and experience that game one more time. But the music in that was just so I even remember I was so obsessed with that the Movements specifically album by Solar Fields. On the 360, you were able to put music on the hard drive and replace whatever game music you're playing with. I played entire Borderlands game with just that CD looping the whole time, and it fit so perfectly. It was like not Alice in Wonderland. It was like the Pink Floyd and
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz
Yeah.
thing. It was like so crazy that it went so perfect together. So if anyone's ever playing Borderlands 1, pop in Movements by Solar Fields and just have it loop over and over. When the album ends, start it over. And it just goes so perfect together. Like you could replace a lot of games music with just Solar Fields music. And yeah, so it's more so that this game made me discover Solar Fields, and it's been just such an artist that such an underrated artist that nobody like. I've never been like run into anybody else that's a fan of like music or just games and stuff like that went, holy hell, Mirror's Edge is a great soundtrack. I've never ran into anyone else that thought that, and I'm like, it hit me differently. So that's why it was my number one. So yeah, kind of back to what we were saying about like how each of us experiences games differently and all that, and each one. This is very cool to see what everyone's number one is, because I'm hoping it's more, niche stuff. Like just
Personal,
stuff
yeah.
that. Yeah, more, not what everyone would expect. Like, if all of us came here today and said our number one is whatever, the same thing, that'd be boring. So that's why music is so special, because it hits everyone differently. And games that you probably would have never even heard of or thought of or whatever, you're like, wait, that had a good soundtrack? Gonna have to go back and listen to that now. So.
Yeah, when you're talking about the whole Zen thing, that's kind of for me. That was for Ori and the Will of the Wisp, because the music is. I left the game on the main menu for I don't know how many dozens of hours. Forgot to mention earlier, just so I could listen to it while I was doing other stuff, because it's just really great music. And like I was saying on my Metroidvania stream, top 5. Because we went through some of these games that I love that I hadn't played in a long time. I played through Mummy Demastered again recently, because that was on my list of favorites and I hadn't played it in a long time. I beat that. Shadow Complex was on my list, and I just finished that a couple nights ago again, because it had been a long time since I played it. And then, like I said earlier, Ori is my number one, and I went back and played that again because it'd been so long. Mirror's Edge is one of those games where I love that game and I haven't played it in a ridiculously long time. So I'm going to be playing it again at some point as well. It's on my list of like games to replay. And when I do, I'm definitely going to pay special attention to the music.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm going to do the same. Yeah, I can't wait to stream that game again. I probably will pick a day and just get through it in one run. But just to get everyone to listen to because I'm listening to that Shard song right now, the puzzle theme, which is what the more low key, or the more vibed out low vibe kind of thing. And holy hell, man, it's so good. I definitely recommend everybody go play Mirror's Edge again and listen to that music.
Good stuff. All right, and who wants to follow that up?
Well, DJ, ladies first.
If
If you want me to go first, I can. It's up to you.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So for my number one, this is a once again a completely different series, and it was hard to choose one game from that series to represent the series, because all the music's fantastic. But when it comes to number one, I've I'm just gonna say, so Halo 3 is my favorite video game soundtrack to listen to, which for a lot of people, you guys mentioned Halo 2, and I can tell because you're a bunch of metalheads. I'm not one of those type of people, so I prefer the more orchestral, emotional type feeling you get from Halo 3 soundtrack. The soundtrack by itself, you can listen to it from front to back, and you can pretty much guess like what's happening in the story if you've never played the game, because of the way that Marty, who's an absolute genius, composed the music. But for me personally, I like listening to it when I read the Halo books. It adds like another layer of like just being immersed into that
Immersion.
world. Yeah, I love the Halo universe. So like I said, it was so hard to choose because I equally enjoy Halo Reach's soundtrack. But when we're talking about what I can listen to front to cover without getting bored or losing interest, Reach for some of the tracks does that to me. So Halo 3, I can listen to any track and never really complain about it. And I think that was peak Marty O'Donnell when he was writing music for Halo. So that is my number one.
Nice. Okay.
Halo
Yeah,
went hard.
I ranked all my Halo
Yeah, with
ones.
the piano.
Listening to all the soundtrack or most of the soundtrack, but Halo underrated one. ODST soundtrack was really good. I like that.
Oh
one a
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
all right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, I haven't read the book since the games were new, but that makes a lot of sense for listening to Halo music while reading the book. So if I ever go back and read the books again, I'll make sure to do that. Cool. All right, and that leaves us to finish off our number ones with DJ.
Last but not least.
So I I had a last minute substitution on mine. My
Oh.
list will be slightly different from what it was on Carl's show. On his, my number one was Castlevania Symphony of the Night, but I had a bit of a second thought here, and I'm gonna have to change it to Castlevania 3 because it just edges it out. Just a perfect example of what an NES soundtrack should be. And honestly, like, if you're going to listen to it, the definitive way would be if you listen to oh, what's the Japanese name? It's
The
like
Famicom disk
Akumajo.
system. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
the FDS version of it's like
Yep.
Akumajo Dracula. Like it
Yes,
has
yeah.
it's yeah, it has like a much longer name, but listen to that one because it has the extra sound chip. But there is at least one song I can think of that sounds better in the North American version, and that's the music Rising, because the Japanese version, because it has the extra sound channels, it doesn't arpeggiate one of the instruments, and the North American version does. But other than that one song, the music just sounds better on the Japanese version. And when I streamed it, I played the Japanese version so my audience could hear the differences, and there's gameplay differences too, but we're not talking about that. We're just talking about the music. It's just a great soundtrack. Definitely probably my favorite, like 8-bit NES soundtrack, even more than Mega Man 2, I would say. And I mean, once again, I covered it on Retro Remix for a good reason. It was my swan song on Screw Attack, but I wanted to go out with something I truly loved, and I think my remix is like 11 minutes for that. Like, I wanted to cover every single song I loved in the game, but even the ones I didn't cover, I still enjoy. I honestly can't think of a truly bad song in the game. There might be some that are like okay, but there's none that I think that are genuinely bad.
Okay.
Right on.
Yeah, I agree with him. The Famicom disk system, for a lot of those games, it sounds better, but there are a couple tracks where it's just like I think the NES was able to produce a better sound, especially with the limited channels it had. I
Mhm.
totally understand that. Yeah, I'm actually listening to it right now because I'm like I completely forgot that I'm trying to understand where you're coming from with it.
Yeah,
I
so
think I
Konami,
understand actually.
but yeah, so Konami had I talked about this earlier, but Konami had a their own unique sound chip, kind of like how Sunsoft had. But for some reason, Nintendo like was really harsh on Konami in importing that over, and I think it was right when the microchip shortage was happening in the late '80s. So as a result, Dracula's Curse had to have like a completely redone soundtrack in the North American version, and it's definitely a worse game for it. It's not the only one though, but it's still good. Even like I still think the US version is decent because it's the one I remember. But like if you get the chance to listen to the Japanese version, it's so much better.
And for a Castlevania normie, 3 was NES.
Yes, the first three were NES. 4 was Super NES.
That's
Dracula
what I
X
thought.
was Super NES.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice.
I haven't played a lot in that franchise, so
Yeah,
I
same.
do
haven't
have
really-
I do have a bunch of them in my backlog though, so I will be playing a bunch of them at some point.
Same.
I was gonna use, or for my instead of Rondo of Blood, I originally had Symphony of the Night. But there's just one too many tracks in that album that I can't get behind compared to
Mhm.
Rondo of Blood.
Yeah,
I
feel
love
you.
the game and I love the soundtrack, but I don't know. But yeah, dude, Dracula's Curse, that's a fantastic choice because
Yeah.
I almost thought about that one too, but I'm like, no, I have to choose Rondo.
Yeah, exactly. I just streamed Symphony of the Night over on Twitch not too long ago, and it was as soon as I got to the Reverse Castle, I'm like, some of the music in this is really good, but then there's other tracks where it's just I don't know, it just doesn't, it's just not hitting right. But then when I listen to Castlevania 3, it's like every single track, it's like, yes, this is the epitome of like what an NES soundtrack can be.
I'm so glad I'm not alone in that because I thought the exact same thing. And I played this game for the first time like about a month or two ago.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, I have the Castlevania Advance Collection. I was going to be playing that anyways because it's Metroidvania games. But the classic ones I was not planning on playing. But thanks to DJ, I just recently, I think last week, I picked up the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, which has I think it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 in it.
I think it has 1, 2, 3 and Bloodlines.
Yes, and it has Kid Dracula as well.
And Kid Dracula, yeah.
And I think you might have to correct me if I'm wrong. You could play any of those in the different regions as well. So you should be able to play Dracula, the third one in Famicom style.
Yeah, I think you can.
I will have to look into that when I get around to playing that. But yeah, I picked that up on DJ's recommendation a while back. So I'm gonna get at least a little bit more learned in the Castlevania franchise.
I had a lot of fun working on the remix for that one and just getting to dig into the actual tracks themselves and learning how they're put together. And like I said earlier, the very strange time signatures they were able to get away with.
I can't wait to have a religious experience listening to that.
All right. Well, that was great. Excellent list with everyone. But before we wrap it up and do our outros, Jason, you want to cover us with the are we going to do anything with the group ranking thing on this one?
Yeah, because I got everything all set using honorable mentions too, because there was a lot of honorable mentions that were named by all of us. So I was trying to give us a little point totals and everything like that. But with the number one on our top 5 lists as a group right now, we have GoldenEye 64. It has the most points and it had multiple people saying it. So that is why it's number 1. Then we have Chrono Trigger at number 2. Reason why that is because we had a bunch of people say that in their honorable mentions. And then we had that as a number 1. And then these are going to be all ties and it's going to go down. So again, when we do another episode of this, which we will, because I want to hear more people and more recommendations of music, and this is always fun just hearing the songs and just writing the list of songs that I have to now listen to. We have Halo 3, KI, Mirror's Edge, Guardians of the Galaxy, Castlevania 3, and then with the 2 after that, Mega Man 2 and X. So those guys are just hanging on right there. But again, with our top 5 right now, so when we hear other people's song choices or album or official soundtrack choices, when we do other ones, there will be some moving. But again, that is a great start to what we have for our top 5 as a group and for this channel.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me. And that was a great time listening to you guys rank your top 5 favorite soundtracks. I have a lot of stuff that I need to listen to now. So but before we wrap it up here and finish off, we're going to go around the horn and let you guys plug your stuff. So we'll start with CJP. What do you got going on? What do you got to plug?
Well, again, I mentioned a few times. I've got the Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse GoldenEye CJP remix dropping next Tuesday at 7. I've just got to finish tweaking it so I can get it published on YouTube for the waiting part of it. Then I'm also host of the Forgotten One cast every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. This week, I've got Paul Chatto from Call Me Chatto and the Frantics joining me. I'm going to be fangirling like a little bitch. I just am because I love the Frantics. And then the next week, DJ is going to join me along with TJ the Gamer, the Gamersician, and we're going to be ranking our top 5 JRPG soundtracks. And then if Other things that you can find me on the Legion of Memers meme streams on Saturdays. I'm a co-producer for E-Temple Queens, the Place to Be Reviews Monday Nitro show on Mondays. And I pop up from here and there. So you can find me. And of course, I do produce original music as well. I just released my second electronic noise album end of last year that you can find on all your major streaming platforms. It's on Bandcamp, and I'm getting ready to start releasing the first track from the next round here soon.
Cool. Yeah, I got the link to everyone. Like I said earlier, the link to everyone's channels is in the stream description, but Paul did drop the link there to CJP's channel in the chat. So if you aren't subbed to him, go give him a sub, and I'm going to start listening to some of your stuff because I've been subbed to your channel, but I haven't actually checked any of it out. So I'm going to be doing that, and hopefully I'll have that same religious experience that Canadian was talking about.
Oh, dude.
Shame, shame, shame.
Ding, 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 ding.
So, all right. Next up, DJ, what do you got going on?
I think aside from just streaming over on YouTube and Twitch, aside from the show that CJP mentioned next Thursday, not this coming Thursday, but the 25th, I'm not really sure if I have anything else going on this month. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. Me and Paul will be doing Paul's doing it right now. Company Boys on the 20th with Melee Jim Jam.
What the heck is going on with Paul right now?
It's going to be me,
Smash.
Paul, Gino, and Melee Jim or Melee James.
It's
me, you, Insidious, and
Jim
Melee
Jam.
James. Sorry, playing Outlast Trials on 420. That's going to be great. James is going to scream, and it's going to be hilarious.
Oh yeah.
But apart from that, I'm stream. As I said, I stream over on YouTube as DJ Axis, and I stream over on Twitch as Seth the Dragon. Kind of a different style for each show, but it's more or less the same. I mean, it's the same person doing it. So that's all I got going.
Cool. All right. Paul, what do you got coming up?
I have, what's today?
Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday. I do not have much going on. I like DJ said, this Saturday we got the Company Boys. Sundays I've been playing Halo with Dude. Soon Neo will be joining us when Halo 3 starts, and Insidious Bliss as well. And then during the week I'm just kind of either I'm just randomly playing games that I'm trying to finish up. Salt and Sanctuary's got to get finished up. Outer Worlds has got to get finished up, so I'll probably be playing those a lot. And Darkest Dungeon, I've been doing a lot of that too. I'm pretty behind on that. Friday nights, Beelzebub over on Devil Made Me Do It's channel on Beelzehub. And other than that, I want to get people over to my Discord because I'm going to just be playing tons of movies all the time in my Discord. I got a voice channel called The Theater. If you see me in there and something's playing, feel free to just pop in and watch. I've been doing a Carl Weathers movie marathon this whole past week. I know I'm a little late. I know he passed away in February, but better late than never. And so I've been having Rocky 1 through 4 playing, Predator, Happy Gilmore, Action Jackson, which is, dude, if y'all never seen Action Jackson, that's a pretty good movie, man. I
never heard of that one.
Dude, it's good. It's like, Carl Weathers playing the badass cop type person, and it was great, man. And then another one that like an old movie that I've never even heard of, seen, whatever, with Harrison Ford and Carl Weathers, Force 10 from Navarone or something. It's like this movie, but it's almost like an Inglourious Bastards type movie where like a group of different people are trying to take down some Nazi stronghold on an island somewhere, and Carl Weathers is in it, Harrison Ford's in it. I was like, what the? It looks old time. It looks like an old Bond movie. Like it's definitely mid 70s, and it's a good movie. I watched it. I was like, man. So come to my Discord here. I'm going to pop a link to my Discord.
I was just going to say, drop the link to your Discord, and then I'll plug it into the stream description as well afterwards.
Absolutely. Where is it? I got it right here. Discord. And not only that, I'll have not only that movie marathon, but I want to do a ton of I want to do more watch parties. like I said, I got Rocky playing because of the thing, and I've never watched Rocky before. So as a person who's never watched Rocky and is now watching Rocky, that movie is a comedy to me because you'd hear
Unintentional comedy.
unintentional comedy, because anytime Sly starts talking, I'm like, oh my god, he's tarded and he's just hey, yo, Adrian, talk to you, talk to me. I'm like, oh my god.
Is he speaking English right now?
Honestly, so I have a new idea for like a Discord kind of movie watch party, and it'll be called "Was It a Classic?" Because
no.
boy, I
Good
was
stuff.
dying laughing at that. But yeah, I want to watch tons of movies in my Discord. So if any TV shows as well. Oh, which also kind of brings me up to my next to one thing I'm working on, which me and Neo actually kind of had the same idea, which an unannounced idea. I want to do a book club thing, but with albums, movies, video games, all sorts of stuff. I'm trying to get the first episode started soon with albums. So we're gonna just pick an album, couple albums, and we'll all sit around and talk about them. So and with movies, it's really good idea, because then if we have like 4 movies that we're going to talk about in an episode, I can have those 4 movies just playing in my Discord all week, so that if you don't have the movie or somebody doesn't have the movie, you could pop into my Discord, watch this or TV series or whatever I pop up. So I'll always, most of the time, if I'm not streaming, I'll probably have something in my Discord playing, because I actually play movies for my cats. So that's why they need background noise. So I'm like, you know what? I got my, thing plugged in already. So just straight from my Xbox to screen share on Discord, and everyone can enjoy some movies. So join the Discord, and also that's where I'll let people know when I stream next. So that is my rant. Thank you all for having me. It was a blast.
It was
Being on.
excellent. All right, and Angry Canadian, what do you got going on?
Well, these days I'm pretty busy, so I don't have a whole lot of streams, and I have a lot of videos I'm trying to work on. But as far as streaming goes, this Friday morning, or this coming Friday morning, I'll be streaming on Rumble exclusively. I like to stream Sonic the Hedgehog games on Rumble just for fun.
Cool.
I treat Rumble and YouTube like Sega and Nintendo. I don't know why. I just do it like just for fun like that. So I finished the Sonic Unleashed, the 360 version, which was it was how do you say this? It was a crawl trying to play that. So I'm going to be playing. I've never played it before. Sonic and the Secret Rings, which I heard is not a great game for the Nintendo Wii. I've never played it, so I'm going to try it out and see how it is. And if you want to, you can follow me on Rumble. But as far as YouTube goes, I think Neo, you and me, and maybe a DJ Access have a stream coming up Thursday night.
Yes,
So,
I will be mentioning that in here in just a moment.
yeah. So besides that, those two. Whenever I stream, I always put it on Twitter or in the Discords, or just hit the bell or whatever. But I appreciate you letting me come on and hang out with these legends, these music producers here. I'm just a listener. These guys are producers.
Well, it's always fun having you on, all of you guys.
Yes.
So, and Jason, you got any? You have a? Because I know. I'll be talking about the next, at least what I think is the next episode of Top 5, unless there's one that you have planned that I haven't heard about yet. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to plug?
No. Just if you haven't watched episode 5 yet, guys, if you go on Nerdy News Trend, you'll be like, hey, why do they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 6? Do these guys know how to count? Well, episode 5 is on my channel. I had tons of fun games. We did. It was WrestleMania week when we did it, so we did top 5 WrestleMania matches. So if you're into wrestling and you do want to see episode 5 of top 5, that is over on my channel right there. I will let Nerdy Neo talk about episode 6, because that's going to be in about 2 weeks again as well, because we're like in this Tuesday format. But other than that, while we're here, I just want to thank Angry Canadian, DJ Access Paul, and then CJP just left us. But I just want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day, and again, just having this fun conversation with music and everything that we do with this show. So I really do appreciate you guys jumping on and talking.
And right at the end, Buddy Static is coming in. Yo, what's up, Static? Yes, we are just wrapping up. We are just finishing up. Great stream, though. I recommend you go back and listen to it from the beginning. But yeah, so if you want to catch that episode, I think it was this is episode 6. So that was episode 5, was about WrestleMania matches. That was on his channel. However, it is in the playlist on my channel for the top 5 episodes. So if you click on it, it's going to play the video from his channel. If that's probably the easiest way to find it. I'm not into wrestling, so that's why I wasn't part of that one. But Jason wants to do some stuff for top 5 on his channel because, like I always say, basically everything on my channel is video game related. But he wants to do stuff with movies and music and stuff. So I'm definitely going to participate in those when I actually have some knowledge in the subject. I have no knowledge on WWE, or WF, whatever you want to call it, because it's going way back. So that's why I wasn't part of that one. But for what I got going on right here on my channel, as Angry Canadian was referring to, on Thursday night, so 2 nights from now at 5:30 Pacific, will be my next episode of Open Mic with Angry Canadian and DJ Axis. And I'm not exactly sure what we're going to talk about, but Angry Canadian's like, hey, dude, could you get DJ together so we could talk? I have some stuff I want to talk about. I'm like, absolutely. So very much looking forward to that and seeing wherever that conversation goes, because that's Open Mic. Is not really anything ever planned. We just talk about video game stuff and go wherever the conversation takes us. So I'm very much looking forward to that chat. And then right here again on Saturday, we'll have the next episode of Party Chat at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. And the guest host for that episode is Dread Roberts, who I think Angry Canadian is friends with.
Yeah, I introduced you because I know he's a big From Software / Souls guy, like huge Souls guy, and so I figured and he's played, not only that, he's played so many games, like basically like Mark the Cyborg, just all kinds of games. So I figured you three and also your other hosts, you guys would get along really well, talking about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so it should be a great episode, because when I ask guest hosts on for Party Chat, I always give them the option to suggest a topic, and he's like, well, I'm a big Souls guy, so we have a Souls related topic as one of the questions for Party Chat. So come hang out with us for Party Chat on Saturday. And then, as I mentioned much earlier in the stream, on Saturday afternoon / evening, 5 o'clock Pacific, I will be over on Cult of Carl of Dojima, whatever you want to call him, over on his channel for the RNG podcast, where Angry Canadian was just on a few days ago, I believe. And then the next episode of Top 5 is going to be 2 weeks from today on the 30th at the same time, 6 o'clock Pacific. And we are talking our top 5 favorite Star Wars games. And we got a packed panel. It'll be our biggest one ever. We'll have 7 people, which we couldn't do before. Now that we're on the paid version, we can do more than 6 people. So I think that's going to be a blast. We got, let me see here. Let me switch over to that one. So for our guests on top 5 Star Wars games, it'll obviously be myself and Jason. We got Colt Carl. We got Melee Jim Jam, JT Epsilon, Fractured Filter, and BD Jake are going to join us for that. So very much looking forward to that one. And then we haven't scheduled anything else for top 5 after that, but we'll let you know when we do. So that will do it for episode 6 of Top 5. I had a blast. Thank you all for joining me on the panel. Everyone in chat, Static, Colton Carl, CLS, Insidious Bliss, Dude, Forking Around. Let's see, did I miss anyone else? I'm sure. Oh, Smooth the DJ was here. Amin Raw, Abe, Rick Cleary, not Clearly. Thank you all for joining us. I had a blast. I hope you join us for next time. And we'll catch y'all later, and everyone. In the meantime, game on.